Hello everyone, welcome back to my Let's Play of 428 Shibuya Scramble. Oh my. Alright. Let's pick up with Kano. Arriving back at the Shibuya precinct, Kano hurried to the interrogation room. With the investigation currently on hold, he knew that taking any official action would be tricky. He was going to break through this stalemate. He was going to need Tadino's help. The abduction, the ransom, the attached case relay, Maria's release, and then Tanaka's death. Maybe Tadino would be able to figure out how all these elements were related. First, Kano needed to check something for himself. Tadino would never have let El Carawan go free. Kano needed the prisoner to set the record straight. El Carawan sat in the precinct interrogation room looking brazen and cocksure. One glance at his face and Kano was reminded of what had happened to Sasayama. Fresh anger smoldered at the edges of his mind. There were two detectives already in the room. Okay. It seems he wasn't made privy to the details, one of them told Kano. Sounds like they were following orders, carrying that attached case around, the other added. Kano sat down across from El Carawan. There's something I'd like to ask you, he said. We were just paid to do a job. I don't know anything more than that. His Japanese was imperfect, but he understood language well enough. Tell me, how did you manage to escape from Detective Tadino? Escape? I didn't. A faint smile came to El Carawan's lips. He let me go free. Liar. Detective Tadino would never do that. Kano slammed the desk with his fist. I didn't have handcuffs on, did I? He took them off me. For me. This had to be a lie. It's not like there weren't other ways to remove a pair of handcuffs. After he took off the handcuffs, El Carawan continued. He pointed his gun at me. Cut the crap. Kano grabbed the prisoner by the collar. But El Carawan went on unperturbed. Kept the gun pointed at me, but he didn't pull the trigger, so that's when I ran. Why would Detective Tadino want to shoot you? Because I saw him. Saw him? Saw him do what? Let me tell you something interesting, El Carawan said sardonically. There was that girl who was carrying the ransom, right? Kano pictured Hitomi standing anxiously beside the statue of Hachingo. That guy Tatino was trying to kill her. In a fit of rage, Kano drove his fist into El Carawan's face. His colleagues rushed to interpose themselves. Kano, calm down. Knocked to the floor, El Carawan gingerly fingered his split lip. And after I gave you such good info too, he grumbled. Detective Tadino was assigned to protect Hitomi Asawa, Kano shouted. You can't expect me to believe you're rubbish. He lunged from around the table, ready to throw another punch, but his fellow detectives held him back. El Carawan looked away indifferently. It's your Detective Tatino you should be arresting, not me. That girl's going to get killed. You need to step in line, pal, Kano bellowed. Kano, his colleague shouted, you're the one who needs to step in line. Go and cool off for a bit. Expelled from the interrogation room, Kano immediately pulled out a cell phone and called Tatino's number. Please pick up, he crushed his phone tight, pleading under his breath. But Tadino didn't answer. Kano sat down in a chair in the hallway in a bit of a daze. He found himself holding the present Sasayama had gotten for his wife. I have to do something. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. His restlessness gnawed at him like a rabid animal. Hey, Kano. He looked up to see Kuze standing beside him, his expression grave. I have an update on Sasayama, the director began. Kano swallowed a lump in his throat. It seems like the knife went in deep enough to do some organ damage, but he's in critical condition. I see. Kano bit his lip hard. His handkerchief, red with Sasayama's blood, clung to the wrapping paper of Sasayama's present. Kano peeled it away carefully so as not to tear the paper beneath. What's that? Asked Kuze. Sasayama had me holding onto this for him. It's a present for his wife. See. Sorry, Director Kuze, for ignoring your orders. Kano's eyes remained fixed on the gift as he spoke. When you get down to it, none of this would happen if it weren't for me. Some kind of punishment was surely headed his way for acting alone as he had. He probably wasn't getting out of this one with a simple written apology. Written apology. When public servants are negligent on their duties or violate regulations, they can be punished with a warning or formal reprimand, reduction in pay, suspension, or dismissal. In the case of a warning, in addition to the remonstration from a direct supervisor, the individual must also submit a formal letter explaining the relevant details and assuring that it won't happen again. But Kuze calmly shook his head. What happened to Sasayama isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself, he said. As far as this case goes, I've been given quite the runaround myself. There was a rare note of vulnerability in Kuze's voice. The higher-ups have barely let any information trickle my way, but they're still ordering me around non-stop. It's a real pain in the ass. Kuze felt silent, ruminating. The quiet lingered between the two men for several moments before he abruptly spoke again. Oh, right. I'd like to get your opinion on something. So, Mamoru Tanaka, who we found in the minivan, you know? What you think? Should we ought to maybe release his name to the media? Kuze had slipped into his childish register. He was clearly exhausted. After dealing with the kidnappers' baffling actions and too much meddling from the higher-ups, even though a veteran like Kuze is just beat. But that's not the only reason for his exhaustion. Kuze has a brother 6 years his senior, who, despite being normally mature, refuses to get a real job, and shows no inclination to settle down with a family. He walks around town, day after day, dressed like a hippie, and treating passerby to songs he's written. Kuze has been worrying about his shiftless brother for years now. The guy's become a chronic source of consternation. Kano was thrown by the question. It was a rare thing for the director to seek an opinion from a mere junior detective. Feels like there's something not too normal about one of Kinji Zasawa's subordinates dying, Kuze went on. Kano had the same thought. This felt too intentional to be a coincidence. So here's the question. Should I get the media involved and try to rush for a resolution, or should I be more cautious? What would you do? About releasing the name, Kano asked? That wasn't such a simple thing to answer. There were so many factors to consider. A tired smile came to Kuze's face. Don't think about it so hard. This is just so I have a point of reference. Tell me what your gut says. I think releasing the name should be alright. I think we should hold back for now. I can't make that decision, sir. I'm going to go with releasing the name. I think releasing the name should be alright. There was still a lot they didn't know about Tanaka. The fact that the final stop for the ransom relay was Tanaka's condo implied some sort of connection between him and the kidnappers. But they still had no idea what his role in the abduction might have been. They also didn't have any motive for why Tanaka would be helping the kidnappers in the first place. By sharing some of what they did know to the public, they might be able to garner some new leads. You'd release the name? Alright then. Without another word, Kuze headed back toward the conference room. On the TV, the governor's press conference was still going on. I just requested that each of the railroad companies, starting with JR, stop trains through Shibuya Station until further notice. As far as the roads go, Route 246 has been closed to traffic. The executive looked pale as he spoke to the crowd. Is there any possibility of a bioterrorist attack? What about the people who are still in Shibuya? The reporters and these barrage questions. The governor's face scrunched up. As I've already made clear, this is not a complete blockade. Because modern Japan does not have a system for enacting martial law, there are a few ways that the government could effectively quarantine Shibuya. In the case of a potential viral infection, the infectious disease law allows for the city to be partitioned into areas of restricted movement. If the authorities do not want to acknowledge the existence of the top-secret UA virus, however, taking such an action would be rather tricky legally. There's nothing to stop anyone from leaving Shibuya on foot. Isn't that what you're describing, de facto martial law? Spat one reporter. Of course not, the governor snapped. You should be all well aware of martial law is illegal. I couldn't declare it even if I wanted to. If you wanted to. So this is a bioterrorist issue then? Never said anything of the sort. The press conference was devolving in chaos. Kano was uninspired given the circumstances. Still, everyone was doing their best insofar as they know how. So why not me, Kano thought. It doesn't matter what I do, I just want to be doing something. Just letting time tick by without trying to take action was more than he could bear. Kano began to worry about Rumi and decided to give her a call. Was worried about Sasayama and decided to visit him at the hospital. Thought about Sasayama's wife and decided to get in touch with her. I'm gonna go with... his girlfriend. Give her a call. The phone rang several times before it went to voicemail. The fact that she hadn't picked up made Kano all more anxious. He was still staring at the phone when he got a call of his own. But he proceeded to incoming call display. His heart nearly stopped. There was Tatino's name. Kano quickly pressed the button to accept the call. Detective Tatino? Detective Tatino, is that you? There was a whole mountain of things Kano wanted to ask. Just what had Tatino been doing this whole time? Why had he let Al-Karawan go free? And what had happened to Hiromi? But while he was trying to decide what question to pose first, Tatino spoke. I've secured Maria Asawa. What? The word came out as a startled gasp. Detective Tatino, you have to bring her in here ASAP right now. She's... Tatino cut him off. You need to bring Hiromi Asawa to my location at once. Hiromi Asawa? Yes. I heard over the wireless that the man from the U.S. Embassy had her in custody. Kano hadn't been listening to the most recent wireless traffic. Apparently Stanley had managed to find Hiromi. But what was Tatino getting at here? Wait, hold on. What for? I mean, why do you need me to bring Hiromi Asawa to you? There was no reply. Detective Tatino, answer me, please. Tatino replied as if he hadn't heard Kano's questions. There's an office building in Nanpeidai called South Hill. I'll be waiting for you on the rooftop. If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria. With that grisly warning, he hung up. Kano's hand went limp. His phone slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor. Kano went to South Hill and Nanpeidai alone. South Hill. The building takes its name from a rough translation of Nanpeidai, the name of this area where it is located. The official name is South Hill Building, but since this is awkward to say, it's frequently shortened. He hadn't brought Hiromi as Tatino had demanded, nor had he reported the situation to Kuze. First he wanted to meet with Tatino and find out what was going on. He took the elevator to the 8th floor. After that he had to take the stairs to the rooftop. As he made his way to the steps, he tried to imagine what Tatino might want with Hiromi. He hadn't noticed anything suspicious about the senior detective in the lead up to the stakeout at the Scramble. Tatino had seemed like the same man Kano had always revered. So why is he doing this? Kano couldn't think of a reason. Reaching the top of the staircase, he had at least stepped out onto the open roof. He's gonna get shot. That's my guess. The time for half-baked conjecture was past. Kano would lay his doubts at Tintino's feet. Then soon enough everything would become clear. Inwardly, Kano did his best to convince himself of that. A warm breeze blew against his cheek. He took a look around, but saw no sign of Tintino. Detective Tintino, where are you? Getting no response, he began to walk around the rooftop, calling out several more times. It's Kano, I've come as you asked. Where's Hitomi Asawa? Kano whirled around when he heard the voice behind him. Tintino stepped into view from behind a water tank. He led him with a young woman bound and blindfolded. Why didn't you bring her? He growled. Kano stared in shock. Detective Tintino, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria? What's the time? 16:10. Okay. Tintino responded by removing the young woman's blindfold. With her blindfold removed, Maria slowly opened her eyes. Then she gazed past Kano, a panicked look crossed her face. Ah, she shot out her arm to point. Kano whirled around in surprise. There was a man on the roof of the building across the way who looked like he was getting ready to jump. Yorikawa, yep. Why now? Kano thought to himself, but he couldn't just stand idly by while someone committed suicide. He felt the pain of disgust when he saw Tintino take in the situation with an indifferent glance but make no move to help. Detective Tintino, I'll be right back, Kano exclaimed. We can finish this after. Without waiting for an answer, he raced for the other building. When he got to the second rooftop, the man was still there and staring down at the ground below. Don't do anything rash, Kano warned, hurrying toward him. When the man gave no response, though, Kano quickly halted. The stranger was still several meters away. Kano braced himself ready to lunge for the man if necessary. Let's not be hasty. Nobody's going to be happy if you jump. Still the man said nothing, simply gazing out at the sky. Surely he could hear Kano now. The detective continued, keeping his voice low and conversational. I've got a co-worker. He's one of the most absurdly devoted husbands you could meet. All he does is brag about his wife. The man continued to ignore him. He was stabbed in the belly earlier today. He's in the hospital right now on death's door. He was happy, but now his life might get snatched away from him anyway. Still the man appeared unmoved. It was as if the words weren't even reaching him. Don't you think it's a waste just to go and throw your own life away? Kano waited for the man to respond. The stranger took his purposeful stride away from the fence toward the roof's edge. Stop, don't do it. The man unflinchingly stepped out toward empty air. No! Kano sprang forward, somehow managed to grab hold of the stranger's wrist. He yanked the man back from the edge, getting only a blank stare in response. Don't go wasting your life like this. Ordinarily, Kano would have stayed and talked until he was sure the guy's death wish had passed. But there wasn't time for that right now. Maria was in just as much danger at that very moment. Whipping out his handcuffs, he shackled the man to the fence. What? I promise I'll come back. Please, just stay alive for a few minutes longer, okay? Kano left the man staring in bewilderment and raced back to the South Hill building. When he got back to the roof, no one was there. Kano immediately tried to call Tintino on his cell, but the cell didn't go through. Tintino must have powered off his phone. Damn it! Where did you go, detective? You needed to hear what Tintino had to say. He still had no idea what was really going on or what that grim truth might be, and it seemed he had just lost his chance to find out. In desperation, Kano rushed from the building. But in frantic search of the area, he saw no sign of either Tintino or Maria. Later, a precinct-wide manhunt failed to discover where the two had gone. From that day forward, Kano was empty inside, carrying on his duties as a detective with a bleak detachment. bad end. Lost sight of Maria and Tatino. When Kano caught sight of a man about to commit suicide, it was Minorikawa. He couldn't ignore his situation and impulsively rushed to the rescue, but lost track of Tatino and Maria as a result. If Minorikawa hadn't turned up on the rooftop, Kano would have been able to focus on his primary mission. Okay. I kind of want to go to the father. I want to see where that goes. Osawa. So let's go there. I don't want to know how people feel. All I want to know is what viruses feel. I prefer viruses because they make no move to encroach on me from the other side of my microscope. They leave me free to let my thoughts wander as I wish. And while it may be true to say I understand viruses, I may never be able to understand my fellow humans. I don't know them. I don't know a single fundamental thing about them. Yeah, but some of us may never understand some viruses that exist. How about that? Anyway, with Tanaka dead, trying to use the backup passwords for the fingerprint scanner and had become a hopeless endeavor. The only remaining remains of gaining entry to the storage area was to issue an emergency unlock request to the electronic lock manufacturer, and in order to do that, they needed approval from 6 members of the board of directors. Returning to his study, Asawa called out Makino's personal cell phone. Excuse me. What is it? Makino said gruffly as soon as he picked up. Asawa informed him of the situation, including Tanaka's death and the fact that Maria was infected. The news left Makino at a loss for words. Please, Asawa begged, you need to hold an emergency board meeting. Makino was silent for a few moments. I'm afraid I can't do that. Why not? Are you just going to sit by and let my daughter die? Asawa raged. And not just her. If Maria goes symptomatic. That was still only if, but Osawa was reluctant to put his fears into words. If she goes symptomatic, the UA virus will sweep through all of Tokyo. I realize that, Makino replied, but one of the board members is overseas on business. Holding a meeting isn't possible. Despite the gravity of the situation, he sounded astonishingly nonchalant. Sawa couldn't back down now. There must be some other option, like a web conference or something. That doesn't help us if we can't get in touch with him, Makino huffed. He went missing a few days ago in the middle of the business trip. Went missing. The head of Akoshi Pharmaceuticals' New York branch has been missing since April 25th, 9 p.m. local time, where there have been no demands for a ransom, and so the New York Police Department is investigating the possibility of some other form of foul play. Sawa was almost too appalled to be angry. That's the most ridiculous lie I ever heard. Would you like to speak to my on-site contact if you don't believe me? This was like arguing with a child. Makino was deliberately working against him. He'd never know if this disappearance was real or not. In that case, you can please appoint a representative in his stead, Osawa pleaded. Selecting a representative is a complicated process. Even if we started right now, it would take until sometime tomorrow afternoon to complete. Tomorrow afternoon? By then, it would be too late for any of this to matter. Sir, you can't see how absurd the things you're saying are? What would you have me do, Makino barked? These are realities of corporate politics. I understand, sir. You will do nothing for my daughter. That's what you're saying. That's not what I'm saying, Makino replied. Look, I'll see what I can do to appoint a representative more quickly. He hung up. This tone had suggested that waiting for an appointee would be a terribly hopeful prospect. I have no more allies, Asawa thought. All I have left now are foes. You couldn't count on anyone anymore. Asawa was just going to have to get the antivirus by himself. Still, he'd have to make Makino at his word right now. That was his only course of action. I'm going to go with A. He couldn't count on anyone anymore. Asawa was just going to have to get the antivirus by himself. Tanaka might be dead, but there still must be some way to get that lock open. Taking extra care to avoid the notice of the detectives, Asawa snuck out of the house and headed for the garage. Keep out. That sucks. I guess I'll go to Minorikawa then, I guess. Minorikawa needed to get back to the NDD office right away, but despite the urgency, he barely stumbled along. He was swaying on his feet, only half aware of where he was even going. No, this is all some sick joke. He just couldn't accept that Toyama was dead. He let a lifeless sigh, a cynical smile crept onto his face. The man always did insist on having his own way, but killing himself? Back when he was still a novice reporter, Minorikawa had written a piece about a middle school girl who committed suicide. The school had made a statement denying that bullying had been a factor, and so most of the media had reported that she had suffered a nervous breakdown over entrance exams. Nervous breakdown, a period of mental illness manifesting as panic disorder, stress-induced anxiety, or the like. The term is commonly used to refer to serious health issues such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, manic depression, as well as the buildup of more minor stresses as part of everyday life. Because it is so broadly and vaguely defined, it is generally avoided in psychiatric contexts. But something about the case had kept nagging at him. Had her death really been a suicide? The more people he interviewed about the incident, the more his doubts grew. The city news editor, however, would not allow him to conduct a follow-up investigation. The reason why was simple. This was the sort of thing that happened every day. They couldn't waste time on a case that was already on the books. It was more important for a reporter to find news stories that squandered time engrossed. It was more important for a reporter to find news stories than to, not news stories, than to squander time engrossed in a case that was old news. Minorikawa understood the editor's decision well enough, but that didn't mean he had to like it. He'd been sulking up on the roof, slowly nursing a cigarette, when the paper's local news copy editor, Toyama, happened to drop by. Copy editor, at a newspaper, an employee who evaluates the quality and suitability of reporters' copy and coverage, effectively the boss of a group of reporters. However, the copy editor typically works under a section editor who has the final say about what makes the page, a middle management position caught between upstart reporters and an angry section chief. Did they say no to the follow-up interviews, Toyama asked, about that girl's suicide? That girl, the name of the girl who killed herself was Chiharu Fuyutsuki. After reading her diary, Minorikawa became convinced that it wasn't an ordinary suicide. 6 years from now, Minorikawa will run into a certain teacher and the investigation into the student's death will be reopened, but that's another story for another time. Yeah, Minorikawa's expelled a plume of his smoke along with his sly. Nothing tasted quite as bad as a cigarette when he was down dumps. So what are you going to do? I'm not going to do anything, Minorikawa said. Editor told me no. Oh, editor said not to? You sound like a child. The rebuff made Minorikawa's temper flare. There are other interviews to do. I want to follow up on this, but there isn't any time. Dumbass. Toyama huffled off and hit him right across the face. What happened to I write what I feel in my heart? That's the one thing I refuse to back down on. What happened to the guy who used to bitch at me like that? Toyama's words hit their mark with painful precision. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. No, you refuse to let them be over. You go after the truth no matter what anyone tells you. Isn't that what being a journalist is all about? Minorikawa scowled and chagrined. The man was exactly right. Till you have what you need, those words had stuck with Minorikawa ever since. In fact, he quit the paper to become a freelancer because he couldn't do his job the way he wanted while trapped in that hierarchy. Now he wondered what if Toyama hadn't killed himself, but he had instead been the victim of a terrorist attack. but after considering the idea for a moment, he thought bitterly, so what? The reasons and the details hardly mattered at this point. What mattered was that Toyama was dead. Minorikawa sat down listlessly and stared up at the sky. The blank swath of blue made him feel more worn out. Just what had all the days running around been for? He felt so empty, so hollowed out by loss. All his motivation had drained away. He had no idea what he should do next. Hey, Minorikawa, what should you do? He tried to listen to his inner voice. You've forgotten your passion, you need to get back. Stand up right now, you just need to forge ahead. Stand up right now, you just need to forge ahead. Yeah, that was his only option, really. He couldn't just let things end like this, and he still didn't have what he needed for his articles, so Minorikawa took a deep breath, readying to get back on his feet. Before he could, however, a young man stumbled across his path, taking a nasty fall on the pavement. Ow! Oh, damn, that hurts. The youngster scrambled back to his feet and turned to Minorikawa with a snarl. What are you looking at, pal? The young man clutched a piece of timber like a club. There was a nasty gleam in his eye. I'm not looking at anything, Minorikawa sighed. I just happen to be looking in your direction. Shut your yap. Apologize, bitch. Now. The punk raised his cudgel. What for? You tricked me, man. Ain't you gonna apologize for that? The kid had stumbled all on his own, but was probably too embarrassed to admit it. Guess he's got to vent his anger at someone. Listen, kid, Minorikawa said, it's not my fault you're such a klutz. Klutz, you know, like the pedal on the car that's got a manual transmission? Oh, that's a clutch. Okay, so then, like lumps of earth or clay, those are clods, you say? Right. So then we're talking about a sort of social get-together for coffee and conversation, huh? Ah, right, that's a clutch. Is it when you try to fix something using stuff that isn't really meant for that purpose? That's a clutch? Okay. The game is trying to explain klutz, but couldn't. Just turned it into a joke. The hell you just saying to me? You got a death wish, pal? With a murderous glare, the punk advanced on him, brandishing his weapon. Hey, Minorikawa said, is it fun hitting people with that thing? Alright, I'm sorry, bring it on. Is it fun hitting people with that thing? The corner of the punk's mouth curled up. Oh yeah, real fun. Only a dumbass beats people up with their bare hands. You just wind up hurting your fists. If you're gonna enjoy sudden violence, you gotta have yourself a weapon. Aha, I see. In that case, maybe give it a rest with that stick, yeah? Huh? What for? The punk scowled in irritation. Don't get me wrong, Minorikawa said. I'm just saying, there have to be better weapons than that. Something that could take a man down in a single blow. The kid stopped to consider Minorikawa's words for a moment. I get ya. Yeah, you might be right about that, and I think I have just the thing. May as well go with my usual. He tossed away the piece of wood on the side of the road. Don't you go anywhere until I get back. Got it? Yeah, sure thing. Minorikawa watched as the punk headed back the way he came. Man, he murmured, what a dumbass. Looking around, he spotted a taxi park close by. It was Kimizuka. You need a ride, sir? Kimizuka's asked, all the politeness as he opened the back door. If you're heading to the publishing office again, I can get you there in 10 minutes. Kimizuka's driving was as smooth as always. He moved his way skillfully through a series of back streets. There was some big explosion earlier, he explained. The main roads are all gridlocked. Yeah, Minorikawa muttered, I was there when it happened. Oh wow, really? I'm glad to see you're not hurt then. Still, what a horrible thing, that minivan. I hear someone was inside it when it exploded. I'm not sure if you were aware. Yeah, I'm aware. Oh, nothing gets past a reporter like you, I see. Kimizuka flashed Minorikawa an approving smile through the rearview mirror. How much have you heard then? Rumor has it that the person who died was a middle-aged man. Oh, huh? We taxi drivers tend to hear quite a bit ourselves. Kimizuka chuckled, and then Minorikawa just cast his eyes down forlornly. You look tired, sir. Yeah, I guess so. His reply was barely audible. Suddenly, someone rushed out into the street right in front of the cab. Look out! There was a heavy thunk as the taxi crashed into a pedestrian. Screeching to a halt, Kimizuka and Minorikawa jumped out of the vehicle to find a young man splayed out on the street. "Hey," the driver called, "you alright?" The fallen pedestrian was practically still a kid and he wasn't moving. Kimizuka hunkered down and jolted his shoulder, then his expression stiffened in alarm. Minorikawa checked the young man's pulse but couldn't detect any heartbeat. "Oh no," Kimizuka said. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Minorikawa turned to him in surprise. "You knew him?" "I did." Kimizuka cradled the young man in his arms. "I'm sorry, but we'll have to find yourself another taxi," he said. "I'm going to turn myself into the police." Looking down at the boy's unmoving form, Minorikawa felt a pain of guilt. "No," he said, "I'm the one who's been asking you to drive around so recklessly all day. This is on me too, but I'll go with you to the cops." The two men decided to head to the station together to surrender themselves. There probably wouldn't be time to work on writing articles while they were being interrogated. But that was just how it had to be, and that was the right thing to do. And Norikawa just had to keep telling himself that, knowing that it was the truth. Bad end. Surrendered to the police. Minorikawa's day ended in a disaster when the taxi was riding hit a young man, Ichi, who ran out of the street. But why did the kid rush out of an intersection like that? The answer lies in Ichi's story. Good grief. Not good. Ichi could hear ambulance and police sirens wailing on the main road. He looked down at Hitomi slumped on the park bench beside him. "You're sure you're not hurt?" he asked quietly, offering her a bottle of water. "I'm okay," Hitomi took a sip from the bottle. "Thanks. I think I managed to calm down Some of the color had finally returned to her face. "So, Ichi began hesitantly inside that minivan." Maria wasn't in there. There was a relief in her voice, but also a note of pathos. "I got looking through the windshield. There was a man laid out in the back seat, but nobody else." The dark cloud lifted from Ichi's face. "So, it wasn't your sister?" "No, I didn't see his face. Just that he was wearing a business suit." Ichi felt the tension ebbing from his body. "That's good then, that it wasn't her. I'd been worried." It was a shame about the poor devil who had been killed, though. Who was it, and why had he been there? "So, I guess now we're out of leads." Hitomi murmured, she hung her head. "We could try the surveillance center again for now," Ichi said. "It'll probably give us better odds of finding your sister than just walking around." "I guess you're right. Shall we then?" Hold on." Ichi had a sudden flash of inspiration. "My house is a lot closer from here. Maybe I should ask my dad if we can check the cameras from home." "You can do that? We have the same system at our house. I'm sure my dad will let us use them." The two got up and headed for Endo Electronics. Ichi decided to let his father know they were coming. He turned on his phone as they walked along. He had it off for a while, so first he checked his voicemail. There was one message wondering who might have called. He played it back. "This is Ichi Endo's personal cell phone. This is Dr. Seiki from Shibuya Central Hospital. Seiichi Seiki, heart specialist and Susan's attending physician, preeminent surgeon who has successfully performed the Batista procedure, wherein the left ventricle is reconstructed after a third of it has been removed." Ichi's expression stiffened. He pressured the phone closer to his ear. "There's been a sudden change in Susan's condition. I tried calling your home as well, but got no answer. Ichi felt the edges of his vision growing dim. As her brother, it would be good as if you could come to the hospital as soon as possible. It's... Ichi? Hidomi's voice was full of concern. Sorry, I just gotta make a call here. Fingers trembling, Ichi dialed his house. The phone rang several times before switching over to the answering machine. Damn it. Where the hell are you, Dad? What's wrong, Hidomi asked. It's Susan. It sounds like things have gotten pretty bad. Well then, we need to get to the hospital right away, Hidomi said. She sounded as anxious as Ichi was. We can't go yet. Ichi shook his head quietly. First we have to save your sister. Hidomi... First we have to save your sister. Hidomi bristled angrily at that. What are you talking about? She grabbed Ichi by the arm and shook him. Right now you need to be thinking about your sister. I can't. I made a promise to Susan. A promise to help people and see things through to the end when something important is on the line. He struggled to get the words out. If I break that promise, then I really am no good to her. But Hidomi didn't look like she was going to back down. Oi, get back here. A threatening shout and run out from nearby. Ichi looked around, startled, and saw a boy about high school age bolting out from behind a building on a side street. Severely slightly older young men were hot on his heels. Ichi knew their faces all too well. They were all members of SOS. They caught their quarry just before he could make it out into the main road. Gotcha, newbie. So the kid there we're after must have been a member too. Let me go. Oh, we'll let you go, alright. Right after you pay up. One of the young men snatched the boy by the collar and shoved him against the wall of a nearby building. Ow, the boy's face scrunched up. What are you talking about? Plain dumb, huh? Interjected one of the onlookers. We told you that members all have to pay monthly dues, yeah? The privilege of getting to call yourself SOS don't come free after all. Ichi felt his blood boil. SOS was trying to pull a shakedown on this new kid under the guise of dues. Shakedown, slang for extortion, a full-fledged crime. Naturally, the direct shakedown, give me all your money, punk, is quite unpleasant, but more roundabout ways of being shaken down can still leave a bad taste in one's mouth. Someone who was surrounded on the street by 8 people in pompadours who said, begging your pardon, but could you please hand over your money, might suffer no physical harm, but could still be the victim of a shakedown. It would have been unthinkable for them to do something like this back when Ichi was running the show. Hey, he barked, let the kid go. He marched toward the group. Say what now? They turned and looked, and faces immediately going pale. Hey, Ichi. Let him go. Ichi focused his glare on the fellow, holding the kid until he reversed his grip. You guys always go around doing stuff like this? None of the gang members answered. They merely turned their gaze glumly to the ground. Hey, Ichi turned to the younger boys. Since when have they been doing this? But of course he realized there was no way the newbie would be able to tell him. Never mind, you can go, Ichi gestured toward the main road. The boy was quick to run off. Ichi waited until the boy was gone before turning back to the others. Does Susan know you're going around collecting dues like this, he asked. Man, we don't gotta tell you that, one of them muttered. Not since you deserted. What did you just say? Ichi leaned in close, getting right in the guy's face. He was met with a defiant sneer. This ain't the old SOS anymore. Not the old SOS? Ichi thought back to the other gang members he'd run into earlier with a malicious gleam in his eye. That guy. Pretty sure he said his name was Kiru? Back when Ichi had been with SOS, he'd never let a guy like that get away with acting all high and mighty. Now it seemed like all these young fellows were ready to follow suit, eager to take him down the peg. Your old news, pal. Ain't your business to tell us how to do things. Ichi felt a confusing flood of anger and sadness that he couldn't quite control. I'm not messing around here, you guys. He grabbed the nearest punk by the collar and lifted him up in the air. Then someone shouted from behind him, "Hey, what are you doing?" Ichi put the guy down and turned around to see Susumu standing there. Mind telling me just what's going on here, Ichi? Susumu flashed his underlings a sharp glare. They immediately took to their heels. Ichi wasn't about to let them go. He raced after them. Just what the hell's going on with SOS? Ichi talked to Susumu. I asked what was going on here. There was a threatening note in Susumu's voice. That's what I want to know. What the hell's happened to SOS, man? Susumu's face twisted with displeasure. You're an outsider now. That's none of your business. I don't give a damn if it's my business or not. When I left you in charge of SOS, You shut your damn mouth, Susumu roared. Yeah, that's right. You left me in charge. So don't you dare give me any lip now about how I run things. His sudden ferocity left Ichi at a loss for words. You're not the one busting your ass out here. I am. Susumu stalked toward Ichi, his face red with emotion. I've had to work so hard to keep things going. With you gone, do you have any idea what it's been like? Know what I've had to put myself through to keep SOS together? There was nothing Ichi could say to that, so he just kept his mouth shut and let Susumu talk. You were gone. I thought maybe I could do things like you did. All at once, Susumu seemed to deflate a little. He hung his head, hiding his face. And if I couldn't be like you, then hey man, I get it, and I'm sorry. But Susumu kept his face averted. Please, he muttered. Stay out of our business. Then he turned on his heel and headed out without looking back. Ichi watched him leave, feeling a painful sting. Ichi, Hiromi asked after Susumu was gone, are you sure you're okay leaving things like this? Ichi shrugged heavily. Susumu said he's doing what he can. If it's not my place to butt in. It's not my place to butt in. He turned his back on Hiromi. He still needed a moment. Ichi, you're being unreasonable. About what? He felt like he'd been wounded at his very core, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. You want to help people who are in trouble, right? Hiromi asked quietly. Yeah, I guess. Ichi's voice was glum. Well, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now. Yeah, I know that. No, Ichi, you don't. Hiromi's tone was clipped and firm. Please go to your sister. What are you talking about? It doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. Hiromi's shout stopped him in his tracks. Ichi, right now, the thing I'm having the most trouble with is that you won't go to the hospital. Don't you get it? How can I possibly be happy with you helping me if you have to sacrifice your own sister to do it? Ichi couldn't answer that, and he knew it. Please go to the hospital. I'm asking you to, and I'm definitely someone in trouble, so it doesn't count as breaking your promise, right? I appreciate that, Ichi said softly, and I'll remember it when this is all done. So yeah, how about we drop by the hospital for a bit? The emotions Ichi had been trying to hide now came well into the surface. We'll go see Susan, and after that we can go look for your sister. Would that be okay with you? That would be more than okay with me. And at long last, Hiromi smiled at him. Back in the sink with each other, Ichi and Hiromi headed to the hospital. Maybe he rushed out to the street chasing after those guys. Maybe that's what happened. I can't remember what the time frame was, but anyway. Shibuya Central Hospital was one of the foremost general hospitals in Japan, outfitted with top-notch medical facilities and staffed by highly skilled personnel. Individuals like Susan with rare blood types were sent to the hospital from far and wide because of its cutting-edge hematology center. Crap! Hematology Center, the hospital division that deals with blood. It Its goal is to provide high-end care to patients with blood disorders, including blood screening, treatments, transfusions, and the management and supply of blood products and other related services. H.E. asked Hitomi to stay in the waiting area while he headed on into the hospital proper. From the visitor's entrance, he passed by the nurse station, then entered the cardiovascular medicine section and walked along a row of examination rooms. Cardiovascular medicine. The cardiovascular system includes the heart as well as the various blood vessels that circulate blood throughout the body. Cardiovascular medicine deals with heart and blood issues such as angina, heart attacks, heart failure, irregular pulse, and the like. He walked by the first room as quietly as possible, catching sight of a mother and daughter sitting together in chairs in the hallway. The mother was crying softly. "Oh, Takuya, he's only been 15, she murmured under her breath. The name Takuya didn't ring a bell. It was only 15 that got a reaction out of Ichi. Only 15. You couldn't imagine anything good coming after that. To be cruelly taken away when one was still so young. Ichi could feel the woman's pain as deeply as if it were his own. When he reached Susan's room, Dr. Seiki, the attending physician, explained her condition. The doctor did his best to keep his explanation simple, but Ichi was too worked up to process much of what he said. He didn't manage to wrap his head around a few things. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Susan had a seizure. For a while it had been touch and go, but finally her condition had stabilized. However, since she hadn't regained consciousness yet, she wasn't allowed any visitors. That was the gist as far as Ichi could tell. "What's your father doing today?" "He still hasn't come by yet," Dr. Seiki said. Ichi wasn't sure what to tell him. It was certainly odd. There was no way his father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he hadn't learned. There was no way his father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he'd learned Susan had just taken a turn for the worst. "I'll give you a call once he's woken up. For now, you can head home for the day." "Alright. Please keep a close eye on the doctor." Somberly, Ichi went to find Hitomi in the waiting area. Sounds like she went into a coma. Patient reception had closed for the day, leaving the hospital quiet. His footsteps echoed softly in the corridors. Then as he walked along, a peculiar sound drew his attention. It had come from over by the base of the nearby stairwell. Ichi took a peek around the corner. The sight that greeted him nearly made him gasp aloud. In the dim light up ahead, he saw a cannon, and she had some white guy pressed against the wall and knife to his throat. Ichi quietly yanked his head back out of view. Could it be? Was this the man Cannon had said she was after? Ichi had to resist the urge to go charging out there. Some amateur head and a half-cocked might will be more of a liability to Cannon than any sort of help. He heard her mutter something to the man in English. "We know nothing about Alfred's background, nationality, sex, age." Ichi could just barely make out the words, but since it was all in English, he had no idea what they meant. "But we do know that whoever they are, they have connections to Langley. Langley stands for U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. Headquarters in Langley, Virginia, similar to referring to the Japanese government as Nagatacho. The CIA has other nicknames, including the company, the agency, the Saka government, the invisible government, and the coup makers." Ichi peeked out again, very cautiously, in time to see the man raise an eyebrow at Cannon's words. "Interesting. That doesn't mean you need to threaten me at knife point, though." He flashed her a thin smile. "Oh, it must be the agent." "It does, actually, because I happen to know that you're a CIA agent." Technically known as officers, the CIA refers to its own spies as agents. Someone in charge of directing agents is called a case officer. Case officers are stationed at embassies across the world in the public guise of diplomats, soldiers, and the like. No sooner were Cannon's words out than the man grabbed her arm and tried to hurl her against the wall. Just before her head connected, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward, then planted both feet against the wall and kicked off with tremendous force. Maybe it's not him. She used her momentum to launch herself forward, regaining her position with the knife against the man's throat. But during this brief moment, the man had managed to draw a gun from inside his jacket, and now the barrel was pressed right against Cannon's heart. Ichi swallowed the lump in his throat. Excuse me. Of what we call a truce, Cannon said softly. She withdrew her knife. Yeah, sounds like you and me are both after the same thing. The man likewise lowered his gun. With a faint smile, Cannon turned her back on him and vanished down the adjacent stairwell. Ichi had no idea what had just happened. They stopped fighting though, so this guy probably wasn't Cannon's mastermind after all. If only Ichi spoke a little English, he might have been able to follow their conversation. He found himself wishing he'd taken school more seriously. When he looked again, he saw that the man too had disappeared. Hiromi stood up from her chair as Ichi hurried into the waiting area. "How's Susan?" she asked. "For now, she's not in immediate danger," they said. "That's good to hear." But more importantly, Cannon was here just now. What? Why? I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Ichi slumped his shoulders. Huh? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Exactly, I couldn't understand anything she was saying. Hell, he couldn't even figure out how to get through to Hiromi. "May I have a moment?" A voice spoke unexpectedly from behind Ichi. Oh, maybe it is the agent. His breath caught in his throat as he turned around. Standing there was a man Cannon had been struggling with. What's up?" Ichi asked. He tried to sound as nonchalant as possible, but the man wasn't looking at Ichi. "You're Hiromi Sasawa, is that right?" Yes. "Hey," Ichi snapped. "Keep your distance." He stepped protectively in front of Hiromi. "This guy, he's not what he looks like." Ichi clenched his fist and adopted a defensive posture. "Huh?" Hiromi seemed panicked. Ichi said, "This might be the person Cannon was warning us about. I don't know who he is, but he's not our friend." I'm gonna go with A and see what happens. "This might be the person Cannon was warning us about." "Oh, you know Cannon, do you?" The man spoke without changing his facial expression. She let a few things slip herself. "Look, who the hell are you?" Ichi demanded. The man calmly reached into his jacket pocket, fearing he might be about to draw his gun. Ichi braced for action. "My name is Jack Stanley. I'm a security assistant officer with the U.S. Embassy." Ichi held back his punch as the man held out his ID card. "ID card. Diplomats are issued diplomatic passports and diplomatic ID cards by their home government. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also issues its own form of diplomatic identification card. The CIA provides such identification to its operatives working out overseas to help maintain their false identities." "Embassy? What does someone from the U.S. Embassy want with me?" Hiromi asked timidly. "Being targeted by a dangerous criminal. I'm here to take you in protective custody." "Custody?" Ichi's temper flared. "Buzz off, Al. We're busy here." "Busy searching for Maria Asawa?" Stanley asked. Ichi and Hiromi exchanged glances. "I know the full details of the trouble you certainly find yourselves in." "We're all right then," Ichi said. "And you should know we don't have the time to get taken into custody. I'm afraid you don't understand the situation we're dealing with. We're up against a dangerous international criminal here. Taking reckless action is only going to put her life in danger. Don't be a fool. This is no time to play knight in shining armor." "Hey." Ichi was infuriated, but he couldn't think of a comeback. After all, it was true that Hiromi had run into danger time and again while she was with him. But I'm already safe, Hitomi insisted. I'm only right now because Eiichi has been protecting me. She eyed Stanley sharply. I've got Eiichi with me. I don't need your protection. Eiichi felt a surge of pride that practically brought tears to his eyes. If Hitomi would have let him, he'd given her an enormous hug. Stanley grimaced in resignation. Alright. In that case, how about I join your search for Maria? I can help I can help keep you safe that way instead. I don't know. Hitomi grabbed hold of Eiichi's sleeve. This Stanley fellow didn't have the most trustworthy face, Eiichi thought, but he realized that he might be biased because being chased around by foreigners all day. After all, if this guy really were after Hitomi, he'd probably have already made a show of force. Not only did he have a gun on him, he was sufficiently skilled in martial arts to hold his own against cannon. He'd have no trouble taking down a single unarmed opponent like Eiichi. Hitomi, I get the impression that Stanley guy is not our enemy right now. Hitomi gave a slight nod. Alright. I trust your judgment on this, Eiichi. Now then, what's the plan from here? Stanley asked, not wandering aimlessly around town, I hope. There was a trace of sadness in his voice. You can keep your mouth shut, Eiichi replied. We can wander around town all day if we feel like it. Two could play that snarky game, he thought to himself. Poor Hitomi looked distressed. Very well, if that's what you want, I can stay quiet. But first I need to inform the police that I have Miss Osawa in my custody. Wait, hold on, Hitomi blurted. That isn't a good idea. Stanley inclined his head. Why is that? Well, since you already seem to know most of the story, Hitomi quickly explained. The kidnapper's threat and described the search for the minivan. Stanley remained quiet, listening with obvious interest. I see, he said when she'd finished. Still, when that minivan exploded, didn't that make your promise to the kidnappers a moot point? Hitomi nodded. I suppose it did, didn't it? Let me ask just one more question. Do either of you know a detective by the name of Tatino? No, we haven't run into any detectives. Yeah, exactly. The only folks we seem to run into are guys who are after Hitomi. I see. A grim expression crossed Stanley's face. Right, I'm going to get in touch with the investigation task force. I'll have them contact your parents for you. Would you mind speaking with them so you can confirm it's really you? Sure, alright, Hitomi said. Stanley got in his wireless and described their current circumstances to the police. Mr. Endo, hold on. Suddenly, Dr. Seiki appeared running down the hallway. There's something I forgot to tell you regarding your father. Oh? Eiichi got a sinking feeling. I got a call from him yesterday afternoon, and he asked me something rather odd. Preparations for a transplant. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure I understand what you're asking. Seiki clutched at the receiver. Daisuke Endo's brooding tone was more than a little disturbing. No, it's alright, Endo said. This is all just difficult to talk about, Doctor. Please forget I said anything. There's just one important thing I want to let you know. Yes? There's gonna be a brain-dead woman coming your way at probably around 9 o'clock this evening, I expect. Her blood type is Bombay. Bombay was an extremely rare blood type that Endo's daughter Suzune possessed. Any transplant donor for Suzune would also need to have the Bombay blood type. Since she has the same blood type as Suzune, the transplant itself isn't an issue, Endo and continued. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether the procedure can be done within a limited time window. And I hate to trouble you, but I just called because I think it would be the best to prepare for the surgery as soon as possible. The more Seiki heard, the more disturbed he grew. He felt like he was listening to the man go about some strange delusion. This man go on about some strange delusion. Doctor, please, just take good care of Suzune. With that, Endo hung up. Eiichi kept quiet as he listened to Dr. Saki tell his story. Of course, that was yesterday, and I still haven't heard anything about a brain-dead girl turning up. After all, only God would know that someone would wind up in the state of brain death. But still, there was something very strange about what your father said. It was as if he was certain that someone was going to wind up brain dead, or just stop right there, H.E. exclaimed. Stanley and Hidomi turned and surprised. They were still in the middle of their wireless call to the police. Don't get me wrong, the doctor said hastily. I'm not trying to imply that your father would hurt anyone. What I'm worried about is your father's mental state, and no, H.E. interrupted him again. That's not it. His own words from earlier spun within his head. So long as we have these cameras, this guy has nowhere to run. Security cameras. I'm sure this is the place. The man with the cane. He'd been on the phone with someone. That didn't mean anything. It was just a coincidence. It couldn't be true. H.E. searched desperately for some other explanation. That was it. Anyone from downtown community could have used the camera's monitoring room. Yeah, no one's been by to check today. Nothing wrong with a little nap, yeah? No dice. No one from downtown had been by the surveillance room today. It couldn't be. It couldn't. H.E. began to tremble. Something the matter? Hidomi asked. H.E., you're pale as a ghost. H.E. gazed beseechingly back into her face. With just one simple question, he could clear this whole thing up. Please tell me I'm overthinking this, he prayed inwardly before asking. Hidomi, would you mind telling me your blood type? Why do you ask? Please, just tell me. I have a sort of weird blood type, Hidomi said. It's called Bombay. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. There was no longer any room for doubt. H.E. found himself facing a sad and painful truth. Why? Why? With an distinguished scream, H.E. punched the wall as hard as he could. But his fist didn't hurt as much as his heart. Dad, why? To save the one he loves, to save his daughter. That's why. Is it the right way? No, but that's why. To be continued. Interesting story so far. So we've done H.E., we've done Osawa, we've done Kano, we just need Minorikawa. Oh, we did do Minorikawa. Let's go with Maria. I walked counter to the throng of people heading toward the scene of the explosion. The scene of explosion. The explosion happened in Shibuya, Jinen, Wanchom, near the intersection of Koen-dori and Norgan Hill. There's a gun pressed against my back, leaving me no choice but to continue marching forward. I don't have time for this right now. There's something I need to do. My frantic sense of urgency grows and grows. Canon. The only clue I have is that name. The only hazy snippets that I have surfaced in my memory provide no answers. Please just tell me, I murmur. Do you know who I am? When the man with the cane doesn't answer, I stop in my tracks. I'm going to start shouting, I warn him. If you want to find out who you are, then do as I say. The barrel of the gun jabs more forcefully into my back. Once we find Hidomi Osawa, you'll remember whether you like it or not. Guess I have no choice but to keep moving then. Are your memories really that precious to you? The man mutters as we start to move again. Taken back by the question. Well, yes. I mean, isn't that pretty normal? There's a bit of a pause before he replies, his voice sad and distant. You're not going to remember just the good times, you know. What do you mean? I mean that sad and painful memories are going to resurface too. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. But still, whatever kind of memories they are, they're all part of me. I'm the person I am now because of sorrow and pain too. I want to remember who I am. The gunman directs me dispassionately along the series of quiet side streets. Right here. I stop at his words. In front of us is an old multi-tenant office building. We ride the elevator to the 8th floor, and then we use emergency exit to take the stairs up to the rooftop. Cool breeze blows across my cheek. Sit down there. I do as he says, setting myself on the cool outdoor air conditioning unit. The man lowers his gun but keeps it in hand. We'll wait here for a bit. For how long? He lets out a rural, full chuckle. Guess we'll have to wait and see. I decide there's no point in trying to fight with him. And now I have to hope he's telling the truth, and whatever is coming will help me get my memories back. If I don't know my past, how can I know what to do about this canon stuff or anything else? I stare up at the sky as I wait for whatever this assassin is waiting for. The silence between us is suffocating. Finally, I can't take it any longer. Hey, so I think this is yours? I hold out the notebook I picked up earlier. The man's surprise is plain on his face. Where did you get that? I saw the pictures inside. He snatches the book out of my hand. And he flips through it, looking sad. I'm afraid that another agonizing silence is about to descend when he speaks at last. This is a picture of me and my childhood friends. His voice is low and quiet. We were inseparable back when we were kids. The boy here, he liked to fiddle with machines, always doing things like taking apart radios and whatnot, and putting them back together. He was a total bookworm too, so he got picked on a lot, but I was always there to save him from the bullies. All of a sudden, the guy's in a sharing mood, I guess. I can feel his aura of murderous rage starting to abate. The girl here was the same age as us, but she felt more like a big sister. Whatever stupid things my other friend and I got up to, she was always willing to laugh it off. I decided to stay quiet and keep listening. What was her name? I asked, curious to know more. So, who was this some sort of love triangle? Well, okay, then guess I'm the nosy sort. What was her name? I am curious to know more. Catone. We dated when we were in high school. Oh wow, but I get the impression from that picture that the other boys must have been like Catone too, right? The gunman's eyes widened. You're furious, dude. Call it a woman's intuition, I say proudly. And I ask for the obvious follow-up. So what happened to you two? I dumped her. The man carefully slips the notebook into the pocket inside his jacket. How come, I ask? I felt it was for the best. He lets out a little chuckle, then stands up and brushes the dust off his pants. He looks strangely lonely. Keep out. Okay. I gotta figure out what is what. Well, there's not much there. Not really anything there either. Minorikawa doesn't have much of anything either, but I can continue with Minorikawa though. 1635. What? Yeah, there's more to be had there. I think. This makes no sense though. So what happens when I go back through this? Oh, right. They ran down a HE by accident. Man. The taxi stopped outside Heaven Publishing. Minorikawa left the 1,000 yen bill on the seat and exited the cab. He was stumbling his way toward the building when someone called out to him. Mr. Minorikawa. For a moment, Minorikawa didn't recognize the man, now idling his sedan at the curb. But when he took a closer look, he realized it was Kenji Osawa. Okay. Oh no, Mr. Osawa, sorry, but I haven't been able to look into that thing you asked about yet. See, that's quite alright. Osawa looked pale and haggard. Minorikawa's reporter sense started tingling. This guy is the key to something. He recalled what he'd heard the detective and his buddy talked about back in the scene of the explosion. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she developed symptoms. You're caught up in something big, aren't you? How did you know that? Because the reporter said simply, I'm Minorikawa. Osawa rolled his eyes. Well, that'll make this simpler, I guess. Get in. I'll tell you everything. Minorikawa hesitated. This might be the big chance to land a beyond incredible scoop. Yet it felt like it was too late to matter. Still, landing a major story so note an issue of 4-star general gossip. And putting Heaven Publishing on the road to solvency. All that was the least he could do in Toyama's memory. Hey, Tomo. Yeah. Here we go, alright. So much stuff is, like, gone past. I ended up streaming this yesterday morning around this time as well. How was your day, Tomo? You don't drop a story until you have what you need. Maybe it was too late to save Toyama. Bet Minorikawa got in the car. Osawa's tale was beyond anything Minorikawa had imagined. So they send you threatening emails to devise a plan to kidnap your daughter in order to get the antiviral. And now that's failed, they're turning to bioterrorism. Finally, Minorikawa was able to flesh out the story behind the conversation he'd overheard earlier. And as he did, he could feel a growing sense of acceleration. So basically, they're now effectively holding all the people in Shibuya hostage, demanding the antiviral. Is that it? Before Osawa could answer, a new idea occurred to Minorikawa. Wait, hold on. Why didn't they just start by holding the whole city hostage? Why did they need to go through all the trouble of kidnapping your daughter? I don't know, Osawa said, shaking his head. Perhaps they wanted the ransom money. For a mere 50 million yen? I can't imagine international terrorists bothering from that much. You can't know how terrorists think Osawa's bad. Let's just assume, though, could there be some other reason they abducted your daughter? Osawa didn't reply. He was probably too preoccupied with finding a way to save his infected daughter to think about anything else. Still, something about the course of events didn't quite add up to Minarikawa. See, good. I was streaming Last of Us 2. Yeah, I seen that. I would have went in and supported you for sure, but it's just that game. I just can't. I mean, you know, you could be playing Mass Effect, and I don't really care for Mass Effect at all. I'd rather sit and watch somebody play Mass Effect than somebody play Last of Us 2, honestly. Honestly. Like, it makes me feel bad because I would love to support you, like, you know, you support me by coming to my streams, but the thing is, it's just that game. Obviously your stance on the game would probably be different from what mine is, even though you're the one playing it, I'm not. I'm not getting into spoilers, don't worry. And I'm not going to get into spoilers for those who do want to play The Last of Us 2 and or see this video at a later date. I just know the spoilers beforehand, and the spoilers did happen to be true. And if anybody on YouTube, I'm warning this right now, do not put any spoilers for The Last of Us 2. Just let people play it. If they want to look up the spoilers on their own, let them do that. But anyway, yeah, it's just like, there's some things that I have against, like, the gaming industry, and I understand why they do things, but sometimes, like, you know, developers and publishers think about money first, more so than their fans. Then money exchanges hands for deals, and the fans, some way, somehow, end up usually getting screwed over. Somehow. Depending on who the company is and that. And I speak whole passionately about this, I do, because it pisses me off when shit like this happens. And usually when companies decide to do something for something, and I get infected in some negative way, then I tend to not support that product. I'll just give a quick example, and then I'll continue with the story here. Persona 5. I had that game pre-ordered. And what happened was, I had that game pre-ordered mainly due to the fact that I played Persona 4. Persona 4 was my first Persona game that I officially played, fully. And I liked, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get Persona 5. Just days before Persona 5 came out and my copy shipped, I found out that the game was still not streamable past a certain point. I can understand them doing that for the Japanese version, because Japan got it first for so long before it reached everywhere else around the world. And then when it finally got released worldwide, they're like, yeah, you can't take screenshots, you can't stream, and if you try streaming or doing this stuff, then we're going to put counter strikes or strikes against your YouTube or Twitch channel, and you know, and all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, are you serious right now? And I'm like, for what? This makes no sense. Here's the simple logic to this. If you don't want to know what happens in a video game, don't go to the stream and watch the game get played. It's simple as that. When you go looking for a game to watch on Twitch, you type in the name of the game and you go looking for people broadcasting a game that you're looking for. If you're following distinctive people on the left side, it will show what the person's streaming. So if you go to click on the person's name, sometimes it doesn't show anything underneath their name until you actually go into their stream. But when you go into their stream and you find out it's Persona 5, hightail it out of there. Nobody's holding a gun to your head to watch the stream. And I wanted to stream that game. And then later on, and so I canceled my pre-order. Yeah, I was extra salty. I couldn't stream it. Exactly. That's how I was. And you know what I did? I canceled it. And protest, like, if I can't stream my game that I'm purchasing from your creators, then I don't want to give you my money. I don't. So I canceled my pre-order. I wanted to because I needed help. Oh, okay. Anyway, so then later on down the road, somebody tells me, oh, hey, by the way, they lifted that thing there that you can stream more of the game. And I'm like, okay, is it the full game or just more of the game but not the full game? And then somebody told me that it was a little bit more of the game. And then apparently they came around to wanting the stream so that you were able to stream the whole game. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. But what happened was Atlas, the creators of Persona, said, we're okay with people streaming the full game now. But they still haven't taken back the DRM on the PS4 copies of Persona 5. Meaning, if you were streaming from PS4, you would still have that blue screen. But if you were a PC user, and you streamed from your PC from the PS4, you would be A-okay too, because you have an Elgato. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. And then I disliked Atlas even more. And I'm like, to me, this is like anti-consumerism. And I don't like it. And I don't know if Sega has anything to do with that or not, because I don't know if you knew, but Sega owns Atlas, and they have been since maybe a year or two before Persona 5 got released. Or maybe within the same year, who knows. But anyway, thing is that's what happened. Long story short, that was basically the whole story. But, and then, Persona 5 Royale, apparently, I think it's what it's called, just came out recently. And what it is, it's supposed to be Persona 5 with all the DLC and all that stuff into like one disc. And I'm like, okay, cool. Then, this greatly pissed me off. My friend was like, oh, I just wanted to let you know, this game is streamable on your PS4 now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, but you're still not going to buy it. And I said, why not? I said, if I can stream the main game, then I could still, from my PS4, then I'm good. And he's like, the secret ending to Persona 5, that's the only part blocked in Persona 5 Royale. And I'm like, but yeah, PC people who can buy it on PC/Steam or stream through their PC can still stream it. And I'm like, fuck you, Atlas. Fuck you. that is where I am with Atlas today. I do not appreciate them saying that you can't stream this. I really don't. I can understand if there's some type of copyright content or something that they have to block it out, but I hate it, absolutely hate it, when there's blocked content that you cannot stream to people. I just absolutely despise it. It pisses me off so wholeheartedly. And I said to this day, and the people who know me well know this, if you have a PS4 version of a game and a PC version of the game, maybe even an Xbox version, but for now we'll go with the PC and PS4. If there is a game that's on the PS4 and it's out for PC, and the PS4, you can't stream it at all because it's blue screen because of copyrighted content, whether it's like the voice artists, voice acting, or the for the where the quick brief example, the Tales games, Tales of Vesperia, Tales of whatever, that are on the PS4, you can't stream that from the PS4. The whole entire game is blue screened. And apparently for that, it's because they were the soundtrack and or keyword and or, because I'm not entirely too sure, the voice recordings of the line recordings for voices for the Tales of series is all done at a Warner Brothers sound studio. And because of that, there's some type of like copyright or whatever. So apparently it can't be streamed on PS4. So I'm like, well, there's no limitations on PC, but yet they're fine with people streaming it from their PC? And I'm like, well, why even bother with the whole copyrighted content with the PS4 version that people could still stream from their PCs, no problem, whether it be a PS4 or a PC copy. And then I scratch my head and I'm like, this makes no sense. You're fucking over one base of your fans, and you're saying it's okay for the other set of fans to do this. That's like if you had kids and you said to you had two daughters and said to one daughter, oh, you want dessert? Okay, that's great. You want dessert? Fuck you. That's the way I look at it. It's kind of like, why would you treat one set of people this way and the other set of people you can't? It's like they're cheap. Like a cheap answer to that would be, well, there's nothing we can do about the PC crowd. Well, then why even bother dealing with the PS4 crowd? So, I'm one of those people who decides to not fork money over for products if they don't agree with companies' business practices, basically. I may be missing out on playing a great game, but my money's got to speak volumes. I know I'm just one person out of like hundreds of thousands or millions of people that play video games, but the way I look at it is, if there's other people like me that feel this way, that stream from their PS4, they're going to do the exact same thing, and they all need to voice their opinion to say, hey, look, you're fucking this over when you do this. We just want to stream this. We like streaming. We want to stream your game because we like it. Now we can't even do that. So your game doesn't get top priority because I'm a streamer and I stream every day or so. I don't know, whatever. Anyway. Continuing with the story, I apologize for everybody, especially on YouTube, to hear that, that rant. But anyway. Um, yeah, just shit like that in the gaming industry pisses me off. Like, they may have reasons to do it, but like I said, people end up getting fucked over some way, shape, or form. And it may be a minority of people, but that's not really the point. If you're gonna fuck over somebody, fuck over everybody, not just a small select group. It's better just to give us what we want. It's not like we're gonna steal this, you know, copyrighted music off of your game or whatever because we want to own it for ourselves or claim it's from that we made it. I mean, yeah. Do you think I'm gonna come around saying, oh hey, I made the soundtrack to Persona 5 anytime soon? If you believe that, would you believe I'm the Queen of England? We can't even PS4 share it either. Yeah, that's fucking stupid. Oh really? Yeah, it's stupid, isn't it? Anyway, but whatever the case, if the criminals were after the antiviral, then sticking with Asawa ought to bring them closer to the truth. Minorikawa was still mulling over when they arrived at the laboratory. The two men hopped out of the car and were immediately rushed by a pair of security guards who subdued them in a matter of moments. Hey, Minorikawa protested, what the hell is this? Unhand me, Asawa yelled. I'm Kenji Asawa. This is my lab. But evidently that didn't matter to the guards. Another man emerged from the building. He and Asawa exchanged a few brief words. Judging from the tone of the conversation, this was someone who outranked Asawa at the company. Take him away. As the newcomer looked on, the guards dragged Asawa into the building. Hey, Minorikawa shouted at the man as he began to walk away. Don't you know what's going to happen to Shibuya? Don't you care? If you just stand by and let the people of this city die, Okashima Pharmaceutical is going to be held responsible. The man stopped in his tracks. And if that happens, you'll be ruined personally too, Minorikawa added. You know I'm right. That will be up for the police to decide. You're going to regret this. Don't be a fool. Minorikawa's resolve was unwavering. His pen would met out justice. He might have come close to forgetting what he'd once stood for, but now the old fire was back. I see. It seems this isn't something to leave unchecked. The man gestured with his jaw. Take him as well. More security guards surrounded Minorikawa. Hey, stop it. Let me go. But though he struggled fiercely, there was no escape. Once he was dragged through those laboratory doors, Minorikawa never wrote another article again. Okay, it's a bad end, obviously. Detained at the lab. Minorikawa accompanied Asawa to the lab, but there was no getting past security guards, and if even Asawa can't get into his own lab, there's no real reason to go there. It's Asawa who needs to decide on a different course of action here. Okay, I need to go back and play Asawa. Alright. Yeah. Do you tripping over my own words here. Tomo, do you do much share playing? That had don't actually. Okay. Oh crap. 1610. Oh, thank God. Okay. I can do it. There we go. I do as much as I can. Especially if people want to try out games, I let them try it out on my end, on SharePlay. In my opinion, I think SharePlay is the best way for people to either play games together, or for people to try out games that want to buy said game. Instead of like creating a demo, I think they should just let users SharePlay games for people to try out, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people are interested in SharePlay. Either they know about SharePlay and existing, they don't care about it, or they don't know SharePlay exists. But then there's this third group that seems to be the minority, that's where I'm in, that I prefer, or I like SharePlaying, because then I can get to try a little bit of the game on my end, even though there is a bit of a lag input there. I mean, it's still pretty good technology into doing this stuff, actually. It's pretty good. Especially if you get stuck in a game and you can't get past a certain spot and somebody can do it for you. It's definitely great, but anyway. It seems like not a lot of people are into it. I tried to do that with my friend for Persona 5, but it wouldn't work. Yeah. But I do it, I just don't find any of the games my friends have interesting. As he was driving past Ioma, Asawa spotted a man he recognized walking on the lawn. He pulled up a long time and called out through the window. Mr. Minorikawa. Oh, Mr. Asawa, sorry I haven't been able to look into that thing you asked about yet. I see, that's quite alright. Business with AI and Tanaka could wait until later. Right now, he needed to focus on protecting Shibuya. If he didn't get his hands on that antiviral. You're caught up in something big, aren't you? How did you know that? Because I'm Minorikawa. Well, the man's egotism had some justification. Maybe he didn't know much details, but he clearly had some inkling about Asawa's situation. Something clicked into Asawa's mind. He was up against the wall. Koshi Pharmaceutical had told him they were going to just let Maria die. He was past the point where he could resolve this peaceably, but he was not going to give it up without a fight. When it came time, Asawa was sure this man could help him. Well, that'll make this simpler, I guess. Get in. I'll tell you everything. Minorikawa thought for a moment and then got into the passenger seat. As he drove to the lab, Asawa filled Minorikawa in on all the details. The reporter listened intently, occasionally interrupting to ask a question. So how are you planning on getting your hands on the antiviral? Yes, Asawa had finished. I'm not sure. I figured I'd think of something after I got there. Minorikawa let out a nasal chuckle. Just improvising, huh? Well, I'll back you up. At least I know I found my way into something important. They pulled up outside the lab and the two men got out of the car. Immediately, a team of security guards burst through the gate and forced us out on the ground. Hey, Minorikawa protested. What the hell is this? The guards had grabbed him as well. Unhand me, Asawa yelled. I'm Kenji Osawa. This is my lab. Mr. Osawa, Minorikawa shouted. What the hell's going on here? But Osawa was just confused. He looked up to see Makino standing before him. Sir, tell these thugs to let me go. But Makino just frowned silently down at him. So, not only will you not help me, you're actively getting in my way? Sawa glared up at his boss. Maria's life. No, countless human lives are at risk. There's nothing that you alone can do about that. That's what I need you to understand. Makino gave a signal to the guards, who proceeded to drag Osawa away. The scientist writhed with despair at his own impotence. Damn. In the end, there was nothing I could do. So basically the pharmaceutical company's like, haha, we're gonna kill everybody. Makino's meddling. Osawa decided to try to get to the antiviral directly, and even got some unexpected help from Minarikawa along the way. Unfortunately, upon arriving at the lab, they had a run-in with Makino and the security goons. It looks like Osawa was just not going to be able to get into his laboratory. He'll have to make some other decision. Okay, so the daughter, this one here, hold on. So this woman here, which was the sister that was supposedly been kidnapped, was the one in the cat suit as Tama. And she had amnesia, so she didn't know what her name was at the time. But when it was revealed to us who she was, she still didn't know what her name was. But it still shows us as Maria because we know who she is. Was saying that Maria. Anyway, apparently she has the virus in her. And it's been into her for about 8 or 9 hours now. And then when it gets to the 12-hour mark, apparently she acts kind of like as a bomb. The virus, the UA virus that they were telling about at the beginning of the, around one of the few chapters in the game when you came in and listened in on it. The UA virus that, like, apparently kills people 100%, like the casualty rate. That UA virus apparently is in her. And her other daughter, Hitomi, who is with Eiichi here, had the virus in her, but they cured her first. So she's walking around as a walking cure, while her other sister, Maria, is walking around as a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode, kind of, in a sense. Long story short, let me just put it to you this way. Maria is, what's the word I'm looking for? Words to use. The thing is that apparently this virus is airborne, and they were mentioning that through people coughing and people spitting. But even if the saliva was to dry up, the virus is still there, kind of like how our pandemic is, except that once it's airborne, it's literally airborne. Where, thank God, our thing isn't really airborne, unless you're in the vicinity of somebody coughing. But apparently this is airborne. That once it gets into the air, it affects other people around around, not just close by in proximity. Apparently, I guess. So, anyway. Unless that is this game's way of saying it is airborne if you are nearby somebody who has the virus, and they cough and whatever, and sneeze or whatever. Sort of like what ours is, but ours isn't really technically airborne. Because when I think airborne, I think of carried through the wind and stuff, where that's not the case here for us. But to me, that's what airborne is, in my opinion. But I mean, if somebody was to cough in your face, of course you're going to get a virus that way, whether it's a flu virus or the pandemic virus, or So if somebody's coughing because they're sick, and they cough in your direction, of course you got a good chance of getting sick, But anyway. and looked back into Osawa for a moment. Is there another choice I can have him do? So you just have to take Makino at his word right now. That's the only course of action. Let's see if that changes anything. Sawa sat down in front of his computer and quietly closed his eyes. If only I could just go to sleep and wake up tomorrow morning and find all this was resolved. All I'm asking for is a miracle. But he knew reality would never be so kind, so he could hold his eyes shut as long as he wanted, and it wouldn't make this hopeless situation go away. He felt the anxiety welling up inside him until it seemed like he was going to explode. Excuse me. Needing a distraction from his helplessness, Osawa pointed up Ayanet. He knew this was more escapism, but he just couldn't sit back and do nothing while he waited for Makino to call back. He posted a new topic with the title, Aya Fortune Teller. I tried the Aya Fortune Teller. My results basically said I was a bad person who can't connect to the people around me. And you know what? That's exactly right. I'm only interested in my own little world. That's probably why my wife and my assistant at work got so fed up with me. It's the same with my 2 daughters. What sort of things are they interested in? They have a lot of friends. What are their aspirations for the future? I don't know any of those things. It never even occurred to me to find out. I'm such a terrible father. I like reading it that way. Sawa's fingers seized their tapping on the keyboard as he thought back to when Maria and Hitomi were younger. Daddy, Daddy, the 2 girls would follow him around like a little pair of puppies. Their father was their everything, not much was clear just by looking at their faces. He felt the ticklish giddiness at having his girls clinging to him, so he never felt anything like it in his life. But there were times where he also found it tiresome. I am sick of being the person I am. There's nothing I can do about that, though. I'm sure it's far too late for me to change. I'm reading this in Eeyore voice now. He poured out all his negative emotions onto his post. It felt like a stream of consciousness dribbled, but he didn't hesitate to write it down all the same. He wanted other people to know what a miserable excuse for a human being he was. At last, when he couldn't think of anything else to add, he posted his bitter confession to the forum. He was staring numbly at the monitor when he heard a ferocious shout from the next room. You've got to be kidding me! It was Kajiwara, and Osawa had never heard him. It was Kajiwara, and Osawa had never heard him so angry. Sawa headed into the living room and found Kajiwara embroiled in a vehement argument with the other detectives. I don't care what HQ's policy is, I will not just quietly go along with this. Kajiwara had already screamed himself red in the face. You're out of line, snapped one MPD detective. MPT detective. Kiichi Sawatari, with the Metropolitan Police Department's first criminal investigation section. I haven't heard of Kajiwara's past deeds from friends at the Shibuya precinct. He recommended to his boss that Kajiwara be assigned to the investigation at the Asawa residence. After seeing the detective's interactions with Asawa, he is confident that his recommendation was in the right. However, given the circumstances, he can't help but take a cold stance towards Kajiwara. Hold your tongue. I don't care if I'm out of line. You may have talent, I'll give you that, the other detective said. But you're a precinct detective, and this isn't your jurisdiction. It's not your place to question orders from higher up. Wait, Asawa thought. Kajiwara really isn't a real detective after all? Go on. Explain the situation to Mr. Asawa. Kajiwara bit his lip in frustration at the other detective's order. Very well, he said. But before he could say more, Asawa noticed that the police equipment had all been cleared off the table. Hold on, Asawa said. What's going on? Has something happened? Allow me to explain, sir, Kajiwara said. His bitterness showed plainly on his face. We've been recalled, sir. Recalled. MPD has established a security force headed by members of its Public Security Bureau to deal with the bioterrorist threat. Because of the kidnapping, the task force has not yet found Maria and she is infected with the virus. The task force personnel have instead been absorbed into the security force and will continue their work under its direction. Asawa narrowed his eyes, fighting to keep the confusion from his face. What do you mean by that? He was shaken, terrified to have his suspicion confirmed. I'm truly sorry, sir, for having been unable to help you. Kajiwara gave a deep and solemn bow. But Maria, what's going to happen to Maria? The unit has been tasked with bringing your daughter into custody, sir. That much at least is how it could process. You're going to place her under quarantine, aren't you? Kajiwara's lips stiffened, but he nodded. In order to minimize the spread of the virus, No, Asawa cried. You can't do that. If you do, there won't be any way to save her. His head spun. Please, I beg of you. You need to get Maria to me. I might be able to save her. When Kajiwara didn't respond, he turned to the other detectives. Please, you can't place Maria under quarantine. But the detectives' only answer was to avert their eyes. Why are you all ignoring me? Please, you have to listen. If you bring her to me, I can figure something out. I know I can. He plunked himself down on the floor, yelling and flailing his arms like a child throwing a tantrum. The detectives exchanged sullen looks with one another and then walked off and left them there. He knew he must be a sorry sight, but nevertheless he kept shouting after them. Please don't stand by and let my daughter die. Whew, cold, man, cold. Only Kajiwara remained with him in the living room. Sorry, sir. This was beyond my ability to stop. He gave another apologetic bow. Asawa felt suddenly deflated. No, you're doing a fine job, Detective Kajiwara. It's me who should be sorry. I made such a disgraceful display of myself. That's not true, sir. In fact, I'm deeply moved. I can tell how much Maria must mean to you. Asawa shook his head. If I had really been thinking about Maria, I would have made an effort to work with you detectives more. That was all just self-absorbed shouting, a moment of emotional selfishness, and yet, as a result, you convinced me to stay here with you. Kajiwara proceeded to pull out his phone and put in a request with the task force headquarters to remain at the Asawa residence. He got into a heated bout with his commanding officer, but ultimately received permission to stay on as police liaison with Asawa. Well, the detective said when he hung up, you see, there are some people who are legitimately moved by a parental display of emotion. Even if I'm not certain what I can do, I'm very much into staying here. If I'm not certain that I can do very much in staying here with you. I wasn't sure if I said that right or not. That's not true, Asawa replied. There's plenty you can help me with. He looked into Kajiwara's face and smiled. For instance, I can have a banana whenever I want. You find things that have gone missing. That fried egg on rice you made was delicious. I can have a banana whenever I want. Kajiwara returned Asawa's grin even more brightly. Yes, of course. By all means, have as many as you like. He then produced a pair of bananas from his pocket, handing one to his companion. Funny. Somewhere in there is a joke of, is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Sawa peeled his banana and took a hearty bite. The mild sweetness was pleasant and soothing. It was a flavor that brought back memories. I often eat bananas when I go to the park with my daughter. I often eat bananas when I go to the park with my daughter. Excellent translation. Kajiwara muttered between mouthfuls. I didn't realize you had a daughter, detective. She just started grade school this year. Oh, really? She must be adorable. Oh, I don't get to see her as much as I like. A lonely sort of smile crossed Kajiwara's face. Why is that? Doing this job caused me to neglect my family. Finally, about 2 years ago, my wife hit me with the divorce paperwork. I wanted to be able to keep our daughter with me, but, well, the law tends to favor the mother when it comes to custody issues. The detective then pulled 2 bars of chocolate from his pocket. It's good to have something sweet when you're exhausted, he said. Sawa took one, but said nothing. More recently, my ex-wife has been talking about getting remarried, Kajiwara continued, and she wants me to stop seeing her daughter. He bit into his own chocolate bar with a soft snap. It's no less than I deserve, but it still hurts. Sawa couldn't help but sympathize. The man was losing his daughter. Here was someone he could really talk to. He was sure of that much now. Detective, I apologize. I've kept things from you because I was worried about the involved classified corporate information. Oh, Kajiwara's eyes glimmered with interest. Earlier today I received some emails that could be pertinent to the case. Would you mind letting me see them? Osawa shook his head. On the contrary. Back in front of his computer, Osawa saw that INET was still open. Pretty Honey had responded to his forum post. Pretty Honey, I believe that's what's-his-face's father, but anyway. Or what's-her-face's, I should say. One moment, just let me read this. Osawa read the response. There was no time looking at the internet. Osawa closed the browser. I'm gonna see what this. One moment, just let me read this. Osawa read the response. I got that same result. Do you really think it's too late? Don't give up hope, hang in there. It's never too late. Every family has its share of problems, like you'll never find one that doesn't, I'm sure. When it comes to family, there's no such thing as game over. So don't let it get you down, Julie. Besides, I did learn one thing from reading your post. In the end, a father's happiness is his daughter's happiness. Kajiwara peered into the monitor. A young girl is posting to a forum for people 40 and older. It's Pretty Honey. She always replies to my threads. Detective furrowed his brow. I see. Something the matter? No. That last line there just has me curious is all. A young girl writing something like that? Well, that's neither here nor there right now. Let me see those emails if you would. Sawa opened his email. He pulled up the images of the human testing on the monitor. What is this? Kajiwara stared at the monitor as if unable to look away. These are images from unauthorized clinic testing of an antiviral drug I developed carried out by the company without my knowledge. Images of a... I'm sorry, what was that? The detective frowned at the unfamiliar terminology. In simple terms, antiviral is a wonder drug to combat the UA virus. Hold on, Maria is infected with the UA virus, isn't that right? Yes, UA is a species of virus discovered in South Africa relatively recently. Roughly 12 hours after infection, patients develop a cough, then a fever, then begin vomiting, and ultimately begin to bleed uncontrollably from all over, resulting in death. The mortality rate is, Osawa was reluctant to say it. Kajiwara held his breath waiting. It's nearly 100%. Kajiwara shuddered. But wait, he said after a moment. If you have this wonder drug, then Maria... Sawa shook his head. Without Tanaka, I have no means of getting it out of the lab. Kajiwara frown deepened. I see. It may not be much to go on, but I think we can put together at least one piece of our little mystery here. Something difficult or impossible to explain, an enigma. You see plenty of books titled The Mystery of Such and Such or The Secret of Whatever on bookstore shelves, but when you read them, you're inevitably disappointed by the mystery not being that mysterious after all. Pardon me the one moment. Kajiwara inspected the email address of the sender, A, then brought up the mail header. You don't see email addresses like this much. It's seemingly from a foreign country, but it may be fake. That may be fake. You can tell just from the email. The detective flashed a little grin. Take a look here. So if we can just do this and then this. His fingers flew over the keyboard, calling up the header details, singling out the received from field. This set of 4 numbers at the bottom is the sender's IP address. Think of it as an ordinary head and location marker of sorts. As he spoke, the detective pulled up a website called IP Station. He copied and pasted the set of 4 numbers and pressed the enter key. Okay. The monitor showed the name of the provider, connection method, and other such details. Provider, a vendor that provides an internet connection service. A typical internet connection requires a dedicated line. Customers who do not already have one must make a contract for one with the provider. When the provider establishes your connection to the internet, you are assigned an unidentified number called an IP address. Sawa couldn't make heads or tails of most of it, but one thing drew his eye. Access point, Shibuya or Tokyo. Kajiwara went to the email program's options and checked the server info for Osawa's connection. Deep furrows formed in his forehead. This is the same provider that you use at Mr. Osawa. What does that mean? What kind of internet connection do you have here at your house? What sort? Well, it's plugged in over there, but Osawa pointed at the router. And does everyone in your family use that same line? Yes, I think so. Kajiwara opened up a command prompt and then typed ipconfig. Command prompt. A literal prompt for users to issue computer-controlled commands via keyboard users instead of mouse. Also frequently used to refer to the window or program allowed for such. Okay, so if the same numbers we saw before pop up here, that's a bad sign. Oh, Osawa stared at the monitor. Kajiwara pressed enter, and a black window covered in white alphanumeric characters appeared. What the heck? Kajiwara muttered under his breath. Wait, what's going on? Osawa asked. Explain simply so that I can understand. Faking an email address is simple enough, but the typical person wouldn't be able to fake an IP. It's very likely that these emails were sent from another computer inside this house. Osawa had to stifle a gasp. The emails had been sent from his own house at around 11 o'clock that morning? Since Osawa hadn't sent them himself, that only left one possible culprit. AI. I knew it. I kind of figured A meant for AI. Suddenly his phone rang, nearly startling him out of his seat. Makino's name showed on the incoming call display. Osawa quickly picked up. Is there an update on the emergency board meeting? He blurted. Makino's voice was quiet and subdued. I tried pulling whatever strings I could, but to no avail. I'm afraid holding a board meeting today just won't be possible. The phone fell from Osawa's hand. His own possible means of saving Maria was now gone. To be continued. Are you there still, by chance, Tomo? Very curious about something. Yes, okay. Something I wanted to ask. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now. Had a brain fart. Oh, I know what I was gonna ask. Just listening. I appreciate that. What type of games are you interested in, and what type of games are you not interested in? What I should say is, what genres I should say. What genres are you interested in, and what genres have you no interest in? Very curious. Okay, so HE's to be continued. His is to be continued. This is just this. I wonder what's going to happen here. I like these story games you're playing. Okay. After you're done telling me what you're going to tell me, I do have another game I want to hit you with. But I'll wait for you to finish your responses. I've just marked this under visual novel. There's different types of visual novels, obviously, but I just say visual novel. Yeah, that's why I never overlook visual novels, because I always think to myself, these visual novels could have a really good story to them as well. It's just nobody really likes to sit down and read a novel, because that's what it's called, a visual novel. But the thing is a lot of people have games spoiled for them because of voiceovers. And it's kind of like, yeah, I understand, like, voice work is great in games, and you don't have to sit there and read it. You can just sit there and listen to it while doing some, like, other stuff, like maybe in the house or something, like during cutscenes or whatever. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, text like this with no voice is a throwback, and I can respect that. I'm not one of those types of people who are like, oh, I can't go back on those old games. Ugh. Anyway, but I like adventure, strategic stuff, heavy story-driven games, a few first-person shooters like BioShock, some RPGs. When you say some RPGs, what RPGs have you played that you don't like, and what RPGs have you played that you do like? Just out of curiosity. Oh wow, really? I'm glad to see you're not hurt then, but still, what a terrible thing. Oh yeah. Still on about this. Touch her, blah blah blah. There we go. The taxi stopped outside of Heaven Posting. The trip had taken 10 minutes on the dot. Thanks. Minorikawa left 1,000 yen bill on the seat and exited the cab. Sir, the driver called after him. Minorikawa turned back around. Kimizuga was leaning out the window to point at him. It isn't called work because it's fun, sir. The day will be over soon enough. Just hang in there a bit longer. The driver finished with a knowing grin. Minorikawa cracked a ghost of a smile. Maybe his spirits had been lifted just a tiny bit, a little bit. Thank you, he replied. You're a true friend of the working man. He waved half-heartedly, then headed into the building. There is another visual novel that I have. I will say that. I don't want to get into it any like real time soon, and the only reason why I mentioned that is because I'm playing this, so I need a little bit of a break from visual novels. But I do have the 999 series. Do you know of it? There's like 3 games in the series, and the games originally originated on the Nintendo DS, I believe, all 3 of them. And then later they got remastered for the PS4. No. Let me just put it to you this way, because I don't really know a whole lot about the game. I only seen like a few hours of the game get played from the beginning of one of the games. I'm not even sure which one it is, honestly. I seen maybe 2 or 3 hours of the first game get played, and I seen maybe an hour or 2 of the second or third game get played. But let me put it to you this way. Each game, you're a different character, or you're somebody that you don't know who you are. You're kidnapped with 8 other people, and you're locked away in a desolated area. And you have so many hours to escape or you die. You have no idea who the other people are, well, at least that you know of anyway. Because nobody really seems to remember who they are, so they're trying to recollect who they are while doing stuff. And this person ended up like kidnapping them and bringing them to this area. And apparently each game had its own separate area. Like one game, I think you were out in the middle of the desert somewhere. Another game, I think you were on the middle of a boat in the ocean, or something like that. And another one, I can't remember where you were located, but I think it was something like that anyway, to that effect. So yeah, each of these games always has like one person that's kidnapped these people and has brought them there. So apparently there's different endings to the game, and then there's really like complex puzzles. Like there's a bit to them. It's not just like, oh, if you insert object A into slot B, ta-da. But yeah, so maybe that game may be up your alley to watch as well whenever I get around to that. But anyway, I can't remember what it stood for. The short of it was called 999. It was like 9 doors, 9 people, 9 something. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, Mr. Mino. Chiaki threw herself at him as soon as he opened the door to the office. News of the explosion was playing on the television. Minorikawa marched straight to his desk and opened up his laptop. While it booted up, he tried to get a handle on the current situation. Where are the folks from the loan company, he asked. They're here, Chiaki said. I have them waiting downstairs. Do they know Toyoma's dead? I'm sorry, I kind of let that slip. What about Hana? I'm not sure. I haven't heard from her since she called earlier. With a tiny sigh, Minorikawa started typing on his laptop. By some miracle, his 6 pages of the copy were nearly wrapped up. Still, he needed to do whatever it took to see this job through to the end. That would serve as the final tribute to Toyoma's memory. He loaded his copy to the DDP software in order to set the layout. Bit by bit, actual magazine articles began to take shape. Then the editing department door swung open. Hey, snarled the young man who barged in first. He kicked over a stack of books. How long are you going to keep us waiting, huh? Honestly, Sagawa, must you be so rowdy? Middle-aged man stepped in alongside him. Are you Mr. Minorikawa, then? He added as he fixed his eyes fixed on the journalist. He held out his business card. A pleasure to meet you. I'm Asao Ozu from Takarada Financing. Takarada Financing, a black market lending firm that offers loans at an interest rate above what the law allows. Well known for taking whatever steps necessary to collect what's owed. Its business card slogan, got bad credit, but you need a loan? Call any time. We'll put together a loan that suits your needs. My deepest sympathies about Mr. Toyama. However, I am afraid that we do need you to give us back the money we loaned. Despite his polite tone, the threat in his voice was plain. Look, next month's issue of 4-Star General Gossip is definitely coming out. Couldn't you please wait for a repayment until we had the funds from those sales? Minorikawa asked. That was exactly what Toyoma's plans had been after all. Well, we certainly aren't monsters. If the magazine is going to be making you money, we wouldn't mind delaying another month. You really mean it? Chiaki chirped. To clarify, that would be the case if Toyama were still alive. Releasing the next issue is all well and good, but with Toyama gone, so is the company. That will make full repayment of what we were owed impossible, I expect. Then what do you want us to do? Minorikawa asked coldly. How about we just cut to the chase, growled the younger man, Sagawa. Dig out your ears and listen up. Chiaki recoiled in a panic, and Minorikawa held up an interposing hand. Knock it off, he said. You're scaring the young lady. A thin smile came to Ozu's face. All we want to know is where Mr. Toyoma's daughter is. Yeah, that's right, Sagawa said. Tell us where the girl is. No way, Chiaki squeaked in protest. Hana's just a little kid. She doesn't have any responsibility to pay back the... Ozu didn't let her finish. We're aware of that. Nevertheless, we'd still like to know where she is. The law didn't matter right now. Guys like this had all sorts of ways of wriggling money out of people. It was clear from the looks on their faces that Ozu and Sagawa had some wicked scheme up their sleeves. Unless, of course, you would prefer to take on Toyoma's debts, Mr. Minorikawa. You are quite the accomplished reporter, after all. Take on his debts, huh? Minorikawa didn't know how much Toyama had borrowed, but it only took one look at these guys to tell him that it was no small sum. How about us, Ozu asked. The way you had lent scoop after scoop, I'm sure you'll be able to repay us in full before you die. Minorikawa fiercely returned his stare. Alright, I'll take on the debt. I'll consider it. Could you give me some time? Can we just call it even? I'll consider it. Could you give me some time? Chiaki went pale at Minorikawa's response. No, how can you even think about taking their offer? She cried. Sagawa stepped in, drowning her out. No way. We've waited long enough. Give us your answer now. Yes or no? What's it gonna be? Now, let's just calm down, Ozu chided. He said that he'd consider it. That's a step in the right direction. Would you agree, Mr. Minorikawa? Yeah, sure. Then I suppose we can at least wait a little while longer. Minorikawa had hoped to put them off for several days at least, but it didn't look like that was going to happen. The two men from Takarada Financing plunked themselves down on the editing department sofa. Mr. Mino, you're not actually going to take on that debt, are you? Chiaki asked quietly. Minorikawa sat at his desk looking over the copy he'd written. That's none of your concern, he said. What I need to know is how is your piece on those street interviews how is your piece on those street interviews coming? But I mean those guys. They said it doesn't matter if the issues come out or not. Don't be ridiculous. When a professional agrees to take on a job, they see it through to the end. Chiaki took his point and scampered to grab the printout of her copy. Minorikawa gave it a quick once-over. He saw immediately that the piece was lacking in structure. He then read the article a second time, checking the finer details. Several off-theme sentences jumped out at him. This is no good, rewrite it. He thrust the printout back at Chiaki. Yes, sir. She bowed her head and retreated to another desk. The TV was still on, and news broadcaster voice suddenly broke through the silence as well as Minorikawa's concentration. We're live on the scene now, where an explosion in Shibuya has. Minorikawa gazed blankly at the screen. He found his mind drifting to a particular memory of Toyama. The door looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but Minorikawa didn't care. He pounded on it as hard as he could. The Toyama nameplate popped off and fell to the floor. It was hard to believe this dilapidated apartment was the home of a newspaper editor who worked his way up from reporter. Hey, Toyama, get your ass out here. At the sound of Minorikawa's angry shouting, other tenants on the floor poked their head out of their rooms to stare. He paid them no heed, continuing to call out. Eventually, Toyama opened the door, dressed in his sweats and undershirt. Quiet down, you moron, he snapped. Come in. Come on in. I heard you tendered your letter of resignation at the paper. Minorikawa sat cross-legged at the tatami covered floor. Well, tell me why. Toyama quirked at a lopsided grin. You want to know why I quit, huh? Alright, lean in close. Minorikawa peered at him dubiously. Huh? Why? I don't want anyone overhearing this. Resigned, Minorikawa leaned forward and turned his right ear toward Toyama. The man's warm breath against his cheek was pretty unsettling. At first he had trouble concentrating on Toyama's story, but when the older man got to the crux of the matter, he found himself listening with rapt attention. By the time Toyama finished, Minorikawa was unable to suppress his shock. You're starting your own publishing company? Not so loud, damn it. Toyama shushed him with a finger to his lips. He looked around warily, as if there might be spies in his own apartment. Right, but publishing company? Minorikawa said again, more quietly this time. What are you doing for your distributor account? All booksellers were required to use a wholesale distributor to circulate their publications. To do business with such a distributor, a publisher needed a specialized distributor account. They're not going to let a company with no track record open a new account with a distributor. I'm sure you must realize that. Toyama grinned, a proud gleam in his eye. I know, that's why I bought one. Bought one? A ghost account belonging to a publisher that went bankrupt. Distributor accounts could go for tens of millions of yen. There was no way Toyama could afford that and determined to pay it alone. He must have taken out a loan in order to make the purchase. But the publishing industry was in a slump nowadays. People weren't just buying books much anymore. Starting up a new publishing company was a beyond risky endeavor. And I've already decided on a name for my company, Minorikawa. Toyama's face was positively beaming. Get this. Heaven Publishing. Heaven? That sounds fatalistic. The idea is that the people who work for me will feel like they're in paradise. For all his kvetching about keeping quiet, Toyama was now exclaiming pretty loudly himself. I mean, I can appreciate your willingness to take the risk, but surely your wife must have had objectives, Minorikawa said. Toyama felt silent. He went and opened up the refrigerator. Minorikawa took a peek inside. The shelves were mournfully spare, holding little besides beer cans and drinking snacks. Mrs. Left-Me took her daughter with her. Those scant few words painted the picture clearly enough. Toyama grabbed a can of beer and tossed it to his guest. No more sob stories, he went on. He briskly cracked open his own can of beer. Weak foam bubbled from the top. Cheers, Minorikawa, to Heaven Publishing's big debut. He cast everything aside and was striving for a new beginning. If the man had braced himself for the challenge, it wasn't Minorikawa's place to tell him he was making a mistake. Even if it was an uphill battle, he had little chance of winning. Congrats, Mr. Toyama. Minorikawa pulled the tab on his beer can. Cheers. The two of them clacked their cans together. Getting dry. 1 year had passed since Toyama founded Heaven Publishing. Minorikawa poked his head into the editing office, a bag from the convenience store in hand. Hey boss, how's business? How does it look like it's doing? Toyama sat amidst a veritable amount of return stock, its expression bleak. Return stock. Bookstores do not purchase the books they sell, but rather take them on consignment. This allows them to return to the publisher any books that do not sell. The books were all bulky and non-fiction tomes, not exactly the sort to fly off the shelves. Men couldn't even muster a smile for their reunion. It's been like this for every non-fiction book we put out. Wow, starting right off with the bleak stuff, huh? Because things are bleak. The only thing that's selling is the gossip rag of ours. Minorikawa pulled some beer cans from his bags, handing one to Toyama. Toyama lifted an issue of 4-Star General Gossip from the top of his desk. It was Heaven Publishing's one breadwinner, the only thing keeping the company afloat. But the gossip now seemed like it was buried in the bread of the publishing non-fiction releases. I really did have higher aspirations than this, Toyama sighed, gazing in disappointment at the piles of unsold books. But here we are, with our gossip magazine as our only viable publication. The beleaguered bookseller chugged his beer. Daddy, I'm hungry. Minorikawa was startled to hear a young child's voice. He turned around to see a little girl nestled between the stacks of returned stock. That's my daughter, Hana, Toyama said. It's complicated, but she's living with me now. I see. Minorikawa couldn't press for more details with Hana right there. It's in all likelihood things with Toyama's ex-wife hadn't been going well. Go on, introduce yourself, Toyama said. This is one of Daddy's work friends. Hana turned to Minorikawa with a bright little grin. Hello, my name's Hana. I'm 6. You want some of this? Minorikawa held out a packet of dried squid he bought to go with the beers. Sure. Hana greedily stuffed her cheeks with the squid. Toyama flashed a sheepish grin. Do you like living with your daddy, Hana? Minorikawa asked, giving the girl's hair a gentle ruffle. Uh-huh, I do. My daddy's amazing. He runs a company. Toyama let out a tiny illusionary sob at his daughter's ready praise. I'll keep at it, Toyama said, looking into his daughter's smiling face. Hana is more important to me than any high inspirations I might have had. I'll keep shoveling out copies of the gossip, and at least make sure she's always got something good to eat. Daddy, this is really tasty. Hana held up the pouch of dried squid. Tears welled in Toyama's eyes. Next time I'll make sure she has some sashimi instead of something like this. Hey, what do you mean, something like this? Minorikawa grumbled. I'm the one who bought it. Toyama and his daughter laughed together. It was a heartwarming sight. Minorikawa thought a father and his girl getting along so well. Toyama might have been the hard-hitting journalist, but when he came home at the end of the day, he was just daddy. Toyama might have been a hard-hitting journalist, but when he came out of the home, I can't even speak. But when he came home at the end of the day, he was just daddy. It was only natural for the man, as a father, to put his child above anything else. After gorging herself on snacks, Hana fell asleep on the sofa, looking well and truly satisfied. You know, Minorikawa, Hana's happiness means more to me than my lofty artistic ideals ever could. Toyama kept his voice low as he regarded his daughter's sleeping face. From that day forward, Heaven Publishing had shifted its focus to scandal rags, with 4-star general gossip as its pillar. Had that been for good or for ill? Whatever the case, Toyama had abandoned his pride. Minorikawa had watched him become more and more miserable wretch. Minorikawa snapped back into the preset of his sheep pages appeared in front of his face. Here you go, Chiaki said, radiating anxiety. Right. She's cute. Minorikawa gave her a copy a close read-over, then thrust it back out to her. What did you even fix? He asked. Could you please tell me what parts are wrong? She mumbled, hanging her head. What are you talking about? It's just, well, we don't have a lot of time here, so I figured if I just fix the parts that need fixing. Jackie trailed off into an indistinct mutter. Is it always how you go about fixing your copy? Oh, yes. Then you're never going to get any better. If someone tells you it's no good, you rewrite the whole thing from scratch. Just making fiddly tweaks here and there is what an amateur does. Jackie dipped her head even deeper, cringing at the reprimand. Minorikawa let out a tiny sigh. Look, what I just told you. That's what Toyama told me when I was first starting out. There were times he had me do dozens of rewrites. At first, I thought he was just pushing me around. But after rewriting things over and over, I realized something. There are a whole lot of ways you can write about the same thing. And that's what helped me hone my skills as a writer. Chiaki raised her head back up. Oh, wow, really? You can get that, then stick with it. Write your submission deadline as close as you have to in order to write the best piece you can. Okay, I can do it. I will do it. Finally, Chiaki's face brightened with a smile. That's the spirit. The woman might have talent, but she hadn't realized it yet. She needed to be able to stick to an assignment, even when things got tough. If she didn't have that kind of resolve, she'd never make it as a freelancer. Oh, how touching, Ozu chimed in applauding. I'm almost moved to tears. They'll make a movie off of this for sure. See, we only acquainted with that sad sap. we had only been acquainted with that sad sap Toyama. We never knew there was such an upstanding fellow here who was good at tough love. Noriko shot to his feet and pounded his fist to the desk. That's about enough from the peanut gallery. Hold your tongue, Sagawa snarled. His eyes shone with a vicious gleam. We're getting sick of waiting here. Sagawa, you really are a short-tempered guy, aren't you? Ozu chuckled disapprovingly at his underling, then slid a sheet of paper onto Minorikawa's desk. Hey, Webfu. Playing a visual novel here. How are you? Ozu chuckled disapprovingly as his underling then slid a sheet of paper onto Minorikawa's desk. Nevertheless, I'm afraid we do require a decision now. You'll just stand here, we'll be on our way. Jackie stared down at the document. Is this a bond of recognizance? Recognizance? Yeah, that's right. So that's what you write when transferring debt. Sagawa puffed himself up proudly. Minorikawa silently looked over the contract. If you don't have a stamp, we'll gladly accept a signature as well, as Zu pointed out. Face it, pal, Sagawa added. If you don't hurry up and sign, we're never going to stop going after Toyama's daughter. Minorikawa snatched up a pen. Mr. Mino, you can't do this. Think about what you're doing, Chiaki shouted. If you go through with this, you'll just wind up like Mr. Toyama. I won't. Yes, you will. Just who the hell do you think I am? I'm Minorikawa, dammit. I'm going to land so many scoops that will make your head spin. I'm going to pay back this debt and rebuild Heaven Publishing. But why would you take such a risk, Chiaki sobbed. Minorikawa lowered his voice. Because I owe him so much. I can't stand by and let these scumbags kill his daughter. Minorikawa ready to spin and sign the document. All right, Sagawa cheered. Now we're talking. A signified grin came to Ozu's face as he reached for the contract. But before he could pick it up, Chiaki snatched it from the desk. I'm not letting you do this. Crumpling the paper, she stuffed it into her mouth. Hey, Sagawa snapped. What the hell are you doing? He tried to force Chiaki's mouth open. Don't you dare, you bitch. But despite his frantic efforts, Chiaki managed to gulp the wad of paper down. Sagawa blinked a few times. Oh, you did not just do that. Ozu looked on, dumbstruck. Guess we gotta get a new contract from the office, boss. Bring as many as you want, Chiaki declared. I'll just keep eating them. Girl, you have some kind of... Girl, you some kind of goat or something? Goat. The mental image of goat eating paper is a common one, dating back long ago when paper was made solely out of plant material. If a goat were to eat modern paper, the wad of chemically treated pulp would go undigested and possibly cause an intestinal blockage, so please do not feed paper to goats. Sagawa shoved Chiaki up against the desk. Wow, cut it out, that hurts. As she struggled to resist, Chiaki lurched toward the desk, planting one of her hands atop the TV remote control. One of her fingers happened to land on the volume up button. The sound from the television soon hit max volume. We have just learned the identity of the victim killed in the explosion. Shibuya resident and a pharmaceutical executive. Shibuya resident? Minorikawa tilted his head in confusion. Toyama didn't live in Shibuya. Once again, the victim of the explosion was Shibuya resident and pharmaceutical company executive Mamoru Tanaka. The cause of the explosion remains unknown. The police are still in the process of following up several potential leads. The site of the incident remains an alarming scene, with relief workers continuing to tend to the wounded. The four people in this editing office spoke in near unison. Huh? Who's Tanaka? To be continued. I can see it now. Hey, where does paper come from? That girl's butt, apparently. Interesting. Yeah. I like games like this, the visual novels. I feel like they're, less popular among a lot of people, but I think it's an overlooked genre. Because visual novels can have like really good stories to tell, more so than what some of the game developers put out these days, in my opinion, anyway. This one hits a little bit too close to home right now in terms of what's going on today these days. Mainly because, well, they talk about pandemics in this game and and viruses, because that's what's going on in this story. That's the main story point of it. Well, some side stuff is happening here and there, but everything's tying together. Like people cross paths and stuff like that in this game. Let's see, to be continued, to be continued. That's a keep out. That's a to be continued. Kano can still play. Let's see where Kano goes with this. Kano sat down in a chair in the hallway in a bit of a daze. He found himself on the president asking him if he had him for his wife. How to do something he's supposed to do. Blah, 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 blah. It's this guy again. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I read this earlier, so don't want to read it now. I'm just kind of curious of what happens now. Anyway, are you still working from home with Fu? I think he worked from home. Or maybe he did. We're still able to go back into work and work. I don't know, I can't remember. Yep, okay. Right on. Did your workplace open up back up slowly yet, or just not yet? Hold on a moment. Oh yeah. Passed on that. Oh, how come they may need to push that off longer with Fu? Hold on. I wonder what your last company's doing for their workers. Kano was unsurprised given the circumstances. Still, everyone was doing their best insofar as they knew how, so why not make Kano thought? It doesn't matter what I do, I just want to be doing something. Just letting time tick by without trying to take action was more than he could bear. Kano, getting worried about Rumi, decided to call her. Was worried about Sasuke. Decided to visit him in the hospital, thought about Sasuke and his wife, and decided to get in touch with her. I'm going to continue with A and see where that goes. Oh, yeah? I know they did work from home in some form during the lockdown. My friend had posted on Facebook and I commented, "This is hilarious. Show you they are trying to force people back in some ways. Not sure current situation." Ah, okay. Oh, right. I remember this, yeah. Okay. Hilarious because they were working for years to keep anyone from working at home ever. Right. Well, you're gonna need to now. It's that or you don't get any work done for your company. And your company, bad things for your company, right? I've read all this. I'm just trying to get to a spot that I haven't yet. Whereas my current company has many remote employees and give us all we need to WFH. What's WFH? For all this crap, the transitioning was amazingly smooth. WFH, do you mean way before? Work from home, duh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what WFH meant. Could have just typed in work from home. Yep, there's Maria right there. Fingers tired. Did you sleep at all? Whoa, hold off. There we go. Napped earlier. How many hours did you sleep? I hear a faint voice and realize that the man is listening to a wireless radio. I managed to secure Hideo Miyazawa at the Shibuya Central Hospital. The voice says, gleam comes to the gunman's eyes. He pulls his cell from his jacket and hurriedly makes a call. I've secured Maria Asawa, he says to whoever's on the other end. Huh? Maria Asawa? Is my name Maria Asawa? You need to bring Hideo Miyazawa to my location at once. Hideo Miyazawa. If I'm Maria Asawa, what sort of relationships do I have to Hideo? If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria. Then my captor hangs up. Were you serious just now? My voice wavers uncontrollably. Well, what do you mean, you'll kill me? Don't look at me like that. He steps in closer to me, his expression dangerous. That killer's edge that he'd lost during our little talk is back to full force. Just bear with me a little longer. He blindfolded my eyes with some sort of towel. I can't see through it at all. Just then I hear Cannon's voice inside my head. My memories are like shards of broken glass, tumbling through my mind, all out of sequence. Oh, 3? Not a bad map. How are you able to do that when the string is so tangled up? Oh, once you know the trick to it, you can do it with your eyes closed. I showed Cannon how to do a cat's cradle. She reached out for the string. Huh? She doesn't get hold of it quite right. What gives? Despite her efforts, the string all jumbled up. No, not like that, I say. Hook your index through the front part of the string. No, I get that. Cannon's getting irritated. But after giving it a few more tries, she finally managed to pull it off. There we go, she says, look at that. Seeing her innocent little smile bolsters my own spirits. That's neat, thanks for teaching me. Oh, Oh, it's nothing special. Here, as a thing, let me teach you some skills to help protect yourself. And then she punched her in the throat. No, I'm just kidding. Abruptly, my memory jumps forward a bit. Cannon has been training me in some sort of self-defense. Self-defense techniques for protecting oneself when attacked, rather than defeating the opponent. Self-defense training generally prioritizes simply getting oneself away from danger. Some people consider behavioral tenets such as run away when you're attacked or don't go near dangerous places to be forms of self-defense as well. Don't overthink it, she says. People will either try to punch you, kick you, or grab you. If you can stay ready for those three things, you'll be able to take it from there. She demonstrates some defensive movements as I watch. I follow suit, doing my best to mimic her. Okay, let's do this. Cannon throws a punch at me. I dodge, grab her by the wrist, and give her arm a hard twist. Incredibly, she goes whirling through the air. She lands nimbly on her feet, a little grin coming to her face. Nicely done, she says. I stare down at my own hand. Did I really just do that? Once you repeat the movements enough, your body will treat them like second nature. I do as she says, trying to repeat the movements over and over. At first it feels like a silly gimmick, but eventually I can feel the emotions growing smoother. There you go, people like those thugs we met before won't get the drop on you again. Thugs? Now my memory stepped further back into the past. I was wandering the streets trying to get back to my hotel, but I had gotten lost. By the time I realized I'd wandered into some dodgy back streets, I was already surrounded by people giving me threatening looks. They must have been thugs looking for tourists to rob. If they had caught me, I'm not sure I would have made it out alive. But they Ken had seen to that. That said Bean. Thank you so much for what you did for me. I didn't want there to be a scene here, Cannon said bluntly as she surveys the aftermath of the thug's attack. That's all. I'd happened to be right under her apartment window when I was nearly abducted. Bit by bit, my memories of Cannon are starting to resurface. Just a little more. Just a little more, and I'll have myself back, I'm sure of it. Detective Tadino, where are you? The man's voice suddenly snaps back into the moment. It's Kano. I've come as you asked. The gunman grabs me by the arm and yanks me to my feet. Where's Hiromi Asawa? He snarls. Why didn't you bring her? Detective Tadino, why are you doing this? Is this really Maria? The captor removes my blindfold. First thing I see is a huge blimp drifting slowly by overhead. Huh? I'm sure I've seen it before. Pretty recently at that. There's a flash of revelation inside my head, like a dam bursting, and my memories come flooding back to me. Last night, I was at a party, a sort of mixer with the exchange students. Someone was planning to use this party as an opportunity to abduct my sister Hiromi, and so I told Hiromi that the party started 1 hour later than it really did. I had a plan to let myself get abducted in Hiromi's place. Of course, the idea wasn't just to let myself get kidnapped. The necklace I wore was outfitted with a tiny GPS. Whenever I happened to be taken, Cannon would be able to track my location. What we hadn't counted on, though, was my necklace getting torn off when I was attacked. I managed to grab a hold of it, but I hit my head when I was being shoved into the car and it slipped from my grasp. I'm not sure how far we drove after that. In my fuzzy memories, I recall gazing blearily out the car window. That was when I saw the blimp right after we parked. Ayakamiki. Yes, it went fine. There was a man talking to someone on the cell phone. Alright, I'll shut her up inside the storeroom. I'll be waiting in the room upstairs. The man dragged me out of the car and shut me into some dark storeroom. Then I guess for good measure, he hit me on the head again. That's right. There's more of it coming back to me now. You spend your life living in a country at peace in Japan. You couldn't possibly understand me. Canon again, so it's not like she and I became fast friends right away or anything. The two of us were too different in a lot of ways. Where do you draw the line? What would you do to protect your life? What does justice mean to you? A forlorn look came to her face whenever Canon asked me a new question, and I never had a good answer for any of them. My flimsy grasp on my own personal identity made it hard for us to get along, yet I kept visiting Canon's place for the duration of my trip. I recall doing the cat's cradle there at the table one time when we didn't have anything in particular to talk about. Her eyes had gone wide when she saw me defy manipulating the string with my fingers. Who taught you how to do that, she asked. My mother. My real mother, that is. Canon furrowed her brow. What do you mean, real? As opposed to my stepmother, I mean. My birth mother died after getting really sick. I was only 5 years old, so I don't remember her that well. I see, Canon said. Her expression remained unchanged. What about your parents, Canon? I don't have any. They died during the war. The bluntness of her response made my hand stop. The strain still stretched between. Sensing that they were treading on some serious ground, I hurried to change the subject. Do you have any friends? No. Well, I used to have one. Her use of the past tense made me fear the words, and I was right. He was killed too, by an arms dealer named Alfred. Her tone was dry, matter of fact. Taking revenge on his death is my sole purpose in life. Despite the gravity of her words, her face was an unreadable mask. She seemed almost incapable of human emotion. So, what sort of person is this Alfred? A destructionist who masquerades as a terrorist. Destructionist? That sure wasn't a term that came up a lot back in Japan. Alfred doesn't believe in God and holds no political ideology. The chaos and destruction is to earn money in order to carry out more terrorist acts. So you're saying this Alfred commits terrorism because it's fun? Canon nodded. That's why every now and then Alfred changes loyalties. Just when you think you found ties to some Middle Eastern terrorist organization, it turned out the job was for the American CIA. What the heck? So Alfred stands for nothing then? Canon smiled dismissively at my little childish outburst. I couldn't help but feel a bit patronized. I twiddled my fingers during turning my cat's cradle into a bridge. Canon's eyes fixed right back on the string. A tiny surge of pride replaced my offense. She went quiet, watching closely as I worked my fingers. The tension in the room faded as the silence between us lengthened. My stepmother's the sort of person who couldn't do the sort of thing I said at last. For some reason, I had the sudden urge to talk about my personal life. I guess she cares about herself more than looking after her children. She's not a bad person, though. She gives me weird bits of advice, like telling me to find someone to date, or that a woman's life is defined by a man. But it's not like I hate her or anything. Would you mind teaching me? Canon asked softly. What? How to find a guy to date? No, she shook her head. Then she pointed to the cat's cradle strewn between my fingers. Oh, you mean this? So I took her by the hand and started to teach her the cat's cradle. Hey, do you mind if I ask you something? I said after a while. What's that? That friend you mentioned earlier. What was he like? Canon's fingers went still. It's better if you don't ask. If I tell you, you won't want to come here anymore. It's not true, I insisted. Even though I'm a terrorist, she replied curtly. Terrorist, one who uses fear and violence to attain political objectives. The term has its origins in the Reign of Terror in 18th century France, known as The terror. I swallowed a sudden lump in my throat and able to find words. We fight for righteousness, but you people call us terrorists. Righteousness, in the religion sense, the statement of being virtuous, free of sin, and observant of the prosper rules of moral conduct, not the same as being in the right, though many people equate the two. Am I wrong? She cast a quick look at my face. But I mean, you protected me. My voice wavered as I replied. All I did was take down some thugs. I just didn't want them around. What could I say to that? I just stammered. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Huh? Cannon flashed me another slight condescending grin. I was just joking, don't worry about it. But I didn't get the sense that everything she said was a joke. Even the calling herself a terrorist was an exaggeration. The world canon that was unquestionably a dangerous one. I could tell you that from a cold look in her eyes, a look you'd never expect from an ordinary teenage girl. So what sort of hardships has she endured to acquire the deadly stare? That deadly stare. Having lived all my life in peaceful Japan, I could scarcely imagine. Cannon tried and failed several times to get the cat's cradle right, but she didn't give up. She worked fastidiously by herself, fingers continued to shift awkwardly about. Okay, here we go. She hooked the string around her finger to spread her palms, and the strange shape just collapsed into a jumbled mess. Confound it. Okay, one more time. We can make this into a game with the two people, you know. I plucked the string from Cannon's hands. We passed the string back and forth. Why don't we try that? It's more fun than doing it by yourself. I wrapped the string around my fingertips. What do you say? Want to give it a go? Cannon looked dubious. The intricately intertwined strings were like the world in a way. What I'd started as a single thread was now something that couldn't be undone just by pulling on it. I held my hands out, twirling the string around my fingers. Cannon took the pattern from me and spread her palms apart. She made a perfect bridge between her hands. The shy grin that came to her face made her finally look like a normal girl. I followed suit with a childish little laugh of my own. And as if in a blaze of sunshine, the fog that's been hanging over my head finished receding. I remember everything. My name is Maria Asawa. My sister is Hitomi Asawa. And Cannon? She's a dear friend who I met a far-off land. She helped me once, and now it's my turn to help her. I close my eyes as I reflect upon these precious memories and all the dear for having been lost. Now when I try to picture Cannon, I can do so clearly. It's just as I thought before, my memories are what make me who I am, and I would never choose to forget them. I feel almost as if time had stopped for me while my history was gone, and now it's starting moving again. I'm finally back to being me. And I have to go. I have to go back there one more time. End of her story. And okay. See what happens here. Detective Tatino, what is the meaning of this? Kano fought to remain calm. He felt like he was on the verge of falling to pieces. Bring me Hiromi Asawa and not let this girl go. Why? Why do you need Hiromi for? But Tatino's only answer was for a nice stare. This isn't like you. It's so weird. Detective Tatino, who I knew, who you knew. Tatino cut him off. What do you know about me? I know what sort of detective you are, sir, because I've modeled myself after you for my whole career. The older man's expression remained stony. Don't you remember, Kano went on? That time you risked your life to talk down that man who barricaded himself inside the office? Ever since then, you've been my... Tatino interrupted him with a sudden burst of laughter. You really are gullible, you know that? You can only see things the way you want to see them. What do you mean by that? The truth is, I didn't even care if I died doing what I did. That's why I doused myself in gasoline. Tatino's voice had gone low and quiet. That was no display of heroics. It was more attempted suicide than anything else. I wasn't thinking about the other people still inside the building. It's just a coincidence that turned out the way they did. So then you made a single misstep. Then if you made a single misstep, then everyone in that building might well have burned to death. You're lying, that can't be true. His head insistently. Oh, he shook his head insistently. I don't have time for this conversation. Tatino pressed the barrel of the gun to Maria's head. If you don't bring Hiromi Asawa to me, believe me, I'll blow her brains out. Please stop this, Kano shouted, but there was no hesitation in Tatino's eyes. He looked like he really would shoot Maria if Kano didn't do as he asked. Hurry up, bring Hiromi to me. Can you at least tell me what's going on? Go now, or so help me, I'll shoot. Kano drew his gun from his jacket. I know you, Detective Tatino. I know there's some meaning behind all this. Kano's words came out as an imploring croak. You think you can shoot me, Tatino spat? Letting Al Carawan go free, taking Maria hostage. This has to mean something. Sweat made Kano's hands slick where he clutched his gun. I asked if you think you could shoot me. I've always looked up to you. You were the sort of detective I wanted to become. Kano's view of Tatino began to blur as tears welled in his eyes. Can you shoot me, Kano? I can. Even as he cried, Kano stood resolutely, doing his best to stare down the older man. He set his finger squarely on the trigger and pointed his gun at Tatino's forehead. Suddenly, the piercing stare vanished from the other detective's eyes. I've got to give you full marks for that, Kano. Tatino smiled thinly. I'll tell you then. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. It all happened 17 years ago. A meth addict had assaulted someone in Shibuya. Tatino was questioning people around Dagenzaka in search of the perp. He happened to pass by Endo Electronics. Oh hey, Tatino. It was Kotone Endo, clad in pristine white. Clutched to her breast was her daughter, Suzune, only a few months old. It's been a long time, Kotone said. She flashed a tiny smile. Yes, it has, Tatino replied with a clumsy smile of his own. Are you on the job? Yes, I am. Kotone recoiled slightly at the dour look on Tatino's face. Something the matter? There's an armed criminal hiding out somewhere in the area. What? I wouldn't leave the shop for a while if you could avoid it. But I have to go to the bank to deposit some money. Sure, you can have Daisuke do it. He's away on a repair job and hasn't come back yet. Tatino let out a one-note sigh. See, Daisuke still does things his own way. Alright, let me escort you to the bank. You mean it? I feel a lot safer having you with me. The tone flashed him a smile so wide that Tatino thought he might lose himself in it. Tatino, Kotone, and Daisuke were childhood friends and had gone to school together up through high school. Tatino and Daisuke were always clowning around together, and Kotone was always alongside them laughing. So Tatone and Daisuke maybe, I don't know about Daisuke, but Tatone is Eiichi's mother, so that's interesting. It had been quite some time since he'd gone to walk along Dagataka with Katone. How have you been lately? Well, with a newborn to look after, it's been pretty hectic, but there's never a dull moment. Things have been good. Glad to hear it. Katone is always as bright as a sunflower. Sometimes Tatino managed to convince himself that the sight of her was enough. Outside the bank, Katone held Suzune out to him. Tatino received the baby with anxious frown. What's with the face? I'm not good with babies. I haven't held one very often. Oh, you'll be fine, don't worry. Just hold on to her for a moment while I get taking care of things inside. Alright. You held the baby gingerly like it was a bomb that might explode at any moment. Katone chuckled softly. Susan stirred and squirmed into Tino's arms. She kind of has Katone's eyes, he thought. It was strange, the sensation of holding a child. She was so soft and light, and yet such a real and responsive presence. The faint warmth of her body warmed Tatino inward and turned. When Katone returned after making her deposit, they strolled to a nearby park, Suzune back in their mother's arms. Do you have any plans for marriage, Tatino? I haven't thought about it. Work has me plenty busy. Well, that's just an excuse, Katone said. If there was really some woman you wanted to marry you and let work stop you, then I suppose it's because there hasn't been anyone I felt that way about. Really? Nobody this whole time? Yeah, really. I see. But still, seeing the two of you like this, it really makes me realize how nice having a family could be. Tatino peered deeply into Suzune's face. Well, if it ain't Tatino. He looked up, his cheery voice cut into the conversation. It's Daisuke. What are you doing here, he asked. It's his wife. I could ask you the same question. Come on, give me a break. I've come to make a deposit for the client. In that case, no need to worry. I just took care of it myself. I thought you'd forgotten about it. Huh, really? Katone smiled as Daisuke reached down and carefully lifted Suzune in his arms. Beaming happily at his daughter, he nuzzled up against her tiny cheek. Daisuke, long time no see. Yeah, glad you're doing well for yourself, Tatino. They walked side by side. Daisuke proudly showed off Suzune's drowsing face. What do you think? Adorable, isn't she? Yeah, luckily she doesn't have your looks. Hey now, bad mouthing me the same as ever, huh? Some things haven't changed since high school. Why not drop by our place for a bit? Daisuke offered. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a job, actually. Tatino turned that glance at Katone. An instant later, Daisuke screamed, Katone! A man had come up behind his wife and now had held a kitchen knife to her throat. Katone stood stiffly, frozen in terror. Let her go. Tatino took a step toward the man. Slightly upturned eyes, the close-cropped hair, the thin mustache. All the details matched the description. This had to be the man Tatino was after. Shut your damn mouth. You want to try and kill me, huh? Well, this lady here wants to try and kill me. The man was babbling nonsense. The reports had said the suspect was a tweaker. Right now, his mind was probably a complete mess from meth withdrawal. Left unchecked, there was no telling what he might do. Tatino shoved Daisuke behind him and drew his gun from his jacket. Wait, don't shoot. You'll hit Katone. But Tatino ignored Daisuke's shouts and trained his gun on the prep shoulder. He was confident in his marksmanship. He never missed at this range. Tatino, please back down, Daisuke pleaded. Suzune still clutched in his arms. I beg you. Can't, Tatino hissed under his breath. This isn't someone we can reason with. The silent began wavering his knife about. He could stab it onto Katone at any moment. Tatino had to take the shot now. He aimed for the shoulder of the arm. The man held his knife in. Tatino, stop this, he shouted. Don't do this. For a brief moment, Tatino's eyes met Katone's. He thought he saw her give a tiny nod. Don't shoot. was all over in an instant. By the time Tatino had the prep subdued, Catone's white shirt was soaked through with red. Damn. With Catone's death, so too died Tatino's heart. Whatever feelings had lived inside him had been reduced to cinders, leaving only a never-ending need to atone. Countless times he thought of ending his life in order to make things up to Daisuke and his children. The only reason he didn't go through with it was that he knew death would be an easy way out, and so he stayed on as a detective. He would carry the weight of his sins with him for as long as he lived. This was the sins Tatino gave himself. Years had passed since Catone's death. For the first time, Catone had gone to visit her grave. He was standing by the grave marker with his hands collapsed when someone called out to him from behind. Excuse me. A slender young girl stood there, flowers in hand. Tatino instantly recognized her as Sassoon. She looked just like Catone back in her high school days. "Did you know my mother?" she asked. "Ah, yes, we were classmates a long time ago." "Oh, really? Thank you so much for coming." Sassoon gave a slight bow, then gazed up at Tatino with her big bright eyes. You look just like her." Tatino shrugged to hold back the tears. He felt as if Catone stood before him, returned to life. "My father tells me the same thing all the time. I'm sure once you're all grown up, you'll be just as beautiful as she was." A forlorn smile came to Sassoon's face. "Once I'm grown up? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I guess I really do have a lot in common with my mother, including the part where I'm going to die young." "Don't be ridiculous," Tatino exclaimed. "Why would you say such a horrible thing?" Sassoon took a step backward, looking shocked to be rebuked by a stranger. "My apologies," he said hurriedly. "I didn't mean to startle you." "No, it's all right," Sassoon muttered, clenching the flowers close. "Honestly, it's not something I like to talk about myself, but I'm sick, so there's not really anything I can do to change it." "Sick? I have a heart condition." A generic expression for illness pertaining to the heart, also referred to heart disease, includes things like heart failure, valvular heart disease, and so forth. A transplant is the only thing that can help me, but my blood type is a little bit weird, and it doesn't look like we'll be able to find a compatible donor. Compatible. The immune system exists to get rid of a foreign substance in the body. Often the patient's immune system will attack a transplant organ, which can result in the organ failing or functioning poorly. To mitigate the risk of rejection, it is preferable for the donor and the recipient to have matching body tissue. In this case of a heart transplant, characteristics such as blood type and pre-synthesized antibodies, human leukocyte antigens must be screened ahead of time. Then bowing her head, Sassoon stepped in front of the gravestone and clasped her hands in silence. Tatino felt a wrenching pain inside him, as if Catone was being taken from him all over again. If there really was a God, why would he do such dreadful things? Is there nothing I can do? He nearly lamented aloud. "I'll do anything. Sassoon, I'll do whatever I'll have to do in order to save you." Tatino clenched his fist as he stared at the grave. "Tell me, Catone, what can I possibly do for your daughter? Please tell me, please." And so the months rolled on. Everything changed just after 10 o'clock that morning. Tatino was on the stakeout with his cell phone ring. He glanced at the call display and saw Daisuke Endo's name. He hadn't heard from Daisuke in years now. Fearing that something had happened to Sassoon, Tatino answered the call despite his current tense circumstances. At once he heard Daisuke wailing. Sassoon had a seizure. She might not come back from this one. Tatino's terrible suspicions had been right on the mark. He felt himself growing weak. "Please," Daisuke exclaimed, you need to shoot that girl you're with, that head homie Asawa. You need to shoot her in the head. It we have her heart, we can save Suzune. At first, Tadino couldn't make sense of what Daisuke was saying. Hurry up and shoot. Shoot her, please. Hiromi Asao has the Bombay blood type. Wait, hold on, Tadino said, keeping his voice low. You want me to kill Hiromi Asawa? Why? Quickly scan the area. Daisuke, are you nearby? Wait, where are you? Don't worry about that. If you can just render her brain dead, we'll be able to transplant her heart into Suzune. Brain dead. The term brain dead refers to a state where the entire brain, including the brainstem, is beyond any recovery. In Japan, brain death is defined by Article 6 of the Act on Organ Transplantation, which states that brain death can only be declared when the goal of authorizing the transplant is subject to the judgment of at least 2 doctors, inspecting the patient according to a preset process at least 6 hours apart. Shooting someone in the head didn't necessarily guarantee they wound up brain dead, and even assuming it did, Tadino shot the Asawa girl in the middle of the scramble, it would cause a giant incident. By the time the autopsy was completed, the window of her heart transplant would surely have passed. Tadino, shoot her, please. Daisuke, I can't. You know I can't do that. Hurry. It was like his old friend wasn't even listening to him. Look, even if she did wind up brain dead, they wouldn't be able to perform a transplant. Daisuke kept on shouting. It's fine. It'll be fine. I'll make the transplant work somehow. You'll make it work? Even knowing how ridiculous that was, part of Tadino wanted to know what he had in mind, if anything. I finally found it. I found something we can do for Suzune. Please help me help her. Tadino understood Daisuke's feelings painfully well. To be helpless to stop the suffering of someone you loved. Nothing in the world hurt as much as that. I want to save Suzune. Tadino, this is the one thing I will ever ask of you. Tadino could hear Choke weeping from the other end of the line. And that sound, something inside him shifted. Yes, Daisuke was right. The likelihood of a transplant happening wasn't the issue. What mattered was that right now he could take action. He could do something for Suzune. He mustered up his resolve, feeling the doubt lift from his heart. For Suzune. For the daughter of the woman he loved. Tadino checked the gun tucked inside his jacket, then slowly began making his way through the crowd toward Hiromi. Now you know why we're here. Tadino gestured suddenly with his gun, its barrel still pressed against Maria's temple. Keno's own gun wavered in his hands. He was crying inside. There was nothing else he wanted to hear from Tadino now. And now he was sure of one thing. Words were never going to stop this man. Kano, Tadino said, at my age, I've seen all sorts of young detectives come and go. He fixed his lonesome gaze on Kano, and you're about the worst of the lot. Whenever it's time to take action, you immediately do something reckless. Do you know how many formal apologies I had to write because of you? Tadino let out a heavy sigh. But you know, Kano, because of the way you looked up to me, you've saved me. And that's the truth. You sound like a man speaking the last words. Now come on, see if you can stop me. He pressed the gun harder against Maria's temple. Kano took aim at his former hero's head. Detective Tadino. Hey, Bluey. Good morning. His finger wavered on the trigger. Shoot him. You have to shoot him. If you don't shoot him, Maria's gonna die. He tried desperately to convince himself. I am going to stop you. Tadino looked him coldly in the eyes. Do it, then shoot me. Kano stared right back. He tightened his finger on the trigger. To be continued, thank God. Here it is, 6:04 a.m. I gotta get to sleep. I don't like staying up this late. Are you scared about meeting with your father? Someone's broken through our firewall. I'm sorry, Mr. Mino. That was creepy. We'll lose everything. Running out of time. Bronze trophy achieved. Alright. Make this quick. I'd like to thank everybody for coming by. Tomo Arigato for coming by. I'd like to thank Webfu for stopping in. And I'd like to thank Bluey for popping in right at the last moment. And it is 6:06 a.m. I don't like being up this late. I don't think I'm going to be streaming this game anymore this late at night. Because, yeah, yesterday I ended up getting lucky and was able to finish by like just at 5:30. And yeah, if I didn't go on my rant earlier, I could have finished maybe about 10-15 minutes ago, probably. But such is life. This game wants you to be in pain. Bug Night, waking up as you end, classic me. Not necessarily. I do tend to stream this during afternoon my time, which is late at night for you. But if you finished 10 minutes ago, yeah, then you wouldn't have been able to come in. Then you wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have turned up, exactly. But I would have been in bed before 6. Alright. Well, this has been part 7. I want to thank all those who came by and anybody else who had been in lurk mode for watching. Again, I thank you. Apparently this game's last final hour ends on 200 hours, or the 20-hour mark. And we're here at the 17, so getting closer to the end anyway. But if this guide is anything to follow through, the last chapter goes from 18 to 20, not 19 to 20. So this should be the second last chapter, technically. Anyway. Look at my sleep schedule. It's non-existent. I'm proud you have one-ish. Yeah, but see, here's the thing, though. If you screw up your sleep schedule, just remotely off, then your body is going to feel like shit. And, well, you probably know this. Let me just put it to you this way. I always went to bed no later than 6 o'clock, but usually no later than 5:30, or no later than 6. I only done that like maybe once or twice within the past few years, here and there. Or not once or twice, but very few times. And back in December, I would go to bed between 6 and 7 o'clock because I was playing Rainbow Six Siege. Long story short, at the end of the day, the thing that sucked the most is because I was, I would usually go to bed between 4 and 5, or between 4 and 5:30. Then I end up, staying up at 6 or 6:30. And one day I woke up after sleeping for over 8 hours, and I still felt tired, and I felt like shit. My body was, trembling, and I felt sick to my stomach, and I was like this throughout the whole entire day. And then I had to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and I ended up waking up the next day at noon. And since then, I was like, oh man, I feel much better. And I felt like shit at that time. Needless to say, I don't want to feel like that ever again. Because I was worried. Because my body never felt like that before. So yeah. Anyway. Don't procrastinate to sleep. Talk about how bad it is not to sleep on time. I'm just telling you how it is. Another 2 or 3 minutes ain't gonna kill. Or put me in that state again. But anyway. Alright everyone. Thanks for coming by. Bedtime. Going to bed. Have a good night. See you all for part 8. And again, for people on YouTube, sorry about that rant. It really took away from the game, I know. But anyway. Speaking from the heart, but, video games in general. See you, everyone.